please call the roll for DPS zoning ordinance. This. Here.
Here.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ordinance number 791-2024 by Councilmembers Kelly and Hairston. An ordinance changing the zoning use of parcel of land north of Madison Avenue between West 100th Street and West 101st Street from local retail to general retail, as identified on the attached map, and removing the pedestrian retail overlay district designation for the same parcel of land map change number 2681. Where's Mr. Titron? No, hold on. Nope. All right. Is Miss O'Leary here this morning? Okay. Have you seen her? Yeah. Jen. She's calling out to see if she's there. No, she's calling. Huh? Come on. All right. Shannon Leonard and Ms. Callie Mertzman. All right. Director. It's yours. Yep.
Good morning to the committee through the chair. My name is Callie Mersman, Director of City Planning. Our recommendation to the committee is to not support the proposed ordinance 791-2024. I'm joined by Shannon Leonard, Chief Zoning Administrator, to give some technical insight and information to the council members for your consideration.
Thank you to the chair. So this proposed rezoning is for this parcel right here that is a currently vacant CVS. The zoning proposed change is to general retail business, C2, and to remove the pedestrian retail overlay district. This is just giving you the context of the street along Madison here on the north side. You have mixed use, but you also have multifamily residential and a few other uses. It's also immediately south and adjacent to Cadell Park. Again, this is just giving you the context of the existing vacant CVS across the street from multifamily residential, and this is giving you just some views along westbound on Madison and eastbound on Madison if you were standing on those corners. This is just giving you some other context, letting you know that this isn't a transit-oriented development zone. It's within a short distance from the form-based code pilot area to the north. As you can see, the site is immediately adjacent to the Cadell Recreation Center, the Marion Seltzer School, the nearby fire station number 24, and then they're up on the north on the side here, on the west side, closer to the track is the proposed depot on Detroit development site. Just giving you some ideas or context of what's going on in this area. This is regarding the pedestrian retail overlay district. So this district was put into place in 2013 under two different ordinances, and it's really the purpose of it is to preserve our historic neighborhood shopping districts and keep that area pedestrian and walking in nature, but also minimizing the conflicts between vehicles and pedestrians. And a lot of times there's been questions of why is it kind of scattered here. But the only places that you can apply it is where the underlying zoning is retail. And so obviously the pedestrian retail overlay district wouldn't go over the multifamily sections that you see surrounding this site or along the semi-industry that's closer to the tracks. But this is kind of the end cap, if you will, of this area of Madison for the PRO. And so the proposed zoning here is for general retail. But just to give you some context, the reason why the prohibited uses in the PRO include open sales lots, gas stations, car washes, and drive-throughs, but all other uses are in the underlying district, which would currently is local retail, would permit things such as restaurants, clothing stores, bookstores, eating places, banks, groceries, offices, barbershops, et cetera. So anything that you can think of that's neighborhood retail that residents in this area could pretty much walk to. But the proposal here removes the PRO and the local retail designation specifically and only for this parcel in this district. The general retail, currently allows not only gas stations, but it also allows car washes, vapor hookah lounges, nightclubs. And so once this zoning takes place, it will change not just for the current property owner, but in perpetuity until you change the zoning again. So this is typically not just for neighborhood zoning district, but also for the greater area. It's more of a destination district, if you will, which is why it allows like auto-centric uses. I'll skip on through here, just letting you know that this was traffic safety and public safety. I'll skip through these sections. When we think about zoning map changes just from a procedural standpoint, is the proposed zoning change reasonable in accordance with a comprehensive plan? Our plan suggests for this area to be a mixed-use type of retail, other neighborhood amenity type retail. Does the zoning change promote public health and safety? Do the goals of the zoning change complement the nearby context? Is the change singling out a lot in a discriminatory or different treatment from that surrounding to which is similar? And is it a change that's going to benefit of just one property owner? So the planning opinion from the Planning Commission as a summary is that removing the pedestrian retail overlay district is not appropriate given the city's investments in nearby public assets, many of which contribute to a walkable neighborhood And this includes Cadell Recreation Center, Cadell Park, the CMSD Marion Seltzer School, Fire Station Number 23, and GCRTA Station. Recent policies that support the goals of the pedestrian retail overlay district across our city that's in alignment with the comprehensive Cleveland 2020 citywide plan includes the transit-oriented development and transportation demand management policies, and then obviously our form-based code pilot that was passed. The change from local retail to general retail opens up the possibility for gas stations, of which there are 5 in a 5-minute drive, as well as tire shops, nightclubs, and other typical uses that may be more difficult uses that do not align with that pedestrian character of Madison being immediately adjacent to one of the best assets in the city, which is a rec center. And then there's concern over the practice of spot zoning and the precedent that this is setting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Leonard. All right, thank you. We'll go to the public comment portion. Madam Clerk, can you bring me the sign-in sheet, please? Public comment portion is now open. And just for those who are signed up to speak, it will be 1 minute for public comment. Mr. McCormick, can you turn on your timer, please? Yep. And I am asking, thank you, that we stick to the zoning. This is not about persons' motives. This is not about, what people believe are behind the scenes or smoking mirrors here. Stick strictly to the zoning. If you do not stick strictly to the zoning, you will be asked to get up and leave the table from public comment, okay? So please keep your comments professional, keep your comments above board, keep your comments directly addressing the zoning and your thoughts on the zoning itself. I ask humbly that you all please adhere to the rules here, all right? Again, thank you. All right. I don't know which sheet is which first, but we will go to Paula first. And it does not tell me which piece. Paula, are you here for, 791? Okay. All right, Paula?
Hi there, my name is
Please come to the table. The chair, excuse me, the chair will conduct the meeting, and I have it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Come on, Paula, take a seat here. Come on, you can sit down, Paula. Good morning, Paula.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Paula First. I live on West 91st Street in Cadell. I am opposed to the proposed zoning change. I've spoken against it in the past, and my former reasons for speaking against it are still certainly valid. Public safety, spot zoning, many negative consequences that potentially would come into play with the proposed zoning change. I also have a lot of questions about the fact that the legislation is coming up again at this point in time. The city of Cleveland has submitted an offer to purchase the parcel, and of course the amount that the city has submitted to the owners of the parcel is not public knowledge. There's presumably a real estate negotiation going on at this time. But the fact that Cleveland City Council could be considering a legislation zoning change that is potentially perceived by the property owners to be beneficial to their negotiations is not very, it's unclear to me why council would even be considering a proposed zoning change that is not in the interest of the city of Cleveland in their negotiations.
All right. I mean to interrupt. Your 1 minute is up. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you. All right. Next, we'll have Nikki Hudson.
Thank you. Like Paula, I've spoken about this issue before. I was part of the group that fought tirelessly to save Cadell Park, which is immediately adjacent. We were concerned about the green space and trees at Cadell Park, and putting a gas station immediately next to a park, an elementary school, and a rec center, it is detrimental to the children of the neighborhood, to the historic low-income housing development. Children would have to walk past this gas station in order to get to school, in order to get to the park, in order to get to the rec center. It is a very dangerous intersection. We held protests at this site for several weeks last fall. Every single Friday that we held a protest there was a traffic crash in front of us. One Friday, there were 2 crashes that happened in front of us. The traffic increase that would be caused by this gas station would absolutely increase the
Thank
traffic.
you. Thank you, Ms. Hudson. Next, we have Theodore. Ted? I'm sorry, I couldn't pronounce your last name. My apologies.
No problem.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Or I should say good morning at this point. I'll keep my remarks very brief. To Chief Leonard's point, I do not believe that there could be a more clear example of a zoning change that disproportionately benefits one property owner, and in this particular case at the expense of the community more broadly, particularly concerning with the possibility that the city may be in negotiations for acquisition of the property and that the zoning change may influence the value and capacity of the city to negotiate in a manner that may result in the payment beyond fair market value. Thank you. That concludes my comment.
Thank you. Michael Armstrong.
Good morning. Mike Armstrong. I live on West 89th Street, and I do stand opposed to the spot zoning change. I just want to briefly remind everyone here that in 2013, the community came together to support the pedestrian retail overlay district, both council people whose district Edge was at that particular location, sponsored that legislation. It's a different situation today. I urge you to vote this change down, vote no today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Dean Van Faro? I'm with you, Dean.
Good morning,
sir. How are
everybody.
you? Yes.
I also speak against this ordinance in relationship to the context of this area. The Environmental Protection Agency recommends that gas stations be at least 1,000 feet from schools. The playground at Marion C. Seltzer is about 750 feet. Plus, you also have Cadell Recreation there as well, also with under that 1,000 feet. 66 years ago this week, April 10, 1969, Mayor Carl Stokes proposed the creation of the Division of Air Pollution Control, and among his concerns were limiting harmful oil and gas emissions for citizens. So because of those reasons, for the public health of our children, I ask you to speak against this ordinance. Thank you.
Dean. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Which ward do you live in?
I am 1 mile away from this gas station,
Are you in, what ward are you in?
Pastor. The old Ward 14,
Okay.
Ward 7.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have Diab Dar Issa? Issa, all right, I'll take it. Thank you, Diab.
No one ever gets Diab right.
Thank you, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Diab Darisa. I am in Ward 11, the old and the new, so still same ward. I am against the gas station. From a zoning perspective, it's not the highest and best use. These are historic neighborhoods that predated the adaptation of the vehicle. I may have a car in my driveway, but I acknowledge that our historic neighborhoods are for those who walk, bike, and roll, and we should prioritize those, even those who do not have a car in their driveway. This definitely is not something that will benefit everyone in the community. It's just going to benefit a select few. Maybe straying away a bit from zoning, just a gas station is going to just affect the park in many ways. There's going to be vapes and just candy wrappers and just all this trash, I think, is going to not only go to the park, but the rec center. And something that would benefit all members of the community, regardless of whether or not they have a car in their driveway, I think is the highest and best use.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you. Maria Lopez? Maria Lopez? Yes. All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Maria.
Good morning. Hello, my name is Maria Lopez, and I live on West Boulevard in Cleveland in Ward 15, and I am against this zoning change. I feel that it's very important that we prioritize the safety of our children that play in that park and go to school in that neighborhood. That intersection is very tiny, and the gas station that was there before a long time ago, which I am old enough and I've lived in this neighborhood my entire life, so it's just not a very good area for a gas station. And making changes to the ordinance just so that we can accommodate a gas station, I just feel that it is a waste of our resources in the city. Children need to come first, and there's a lot of pedestrian traffic there. There's an RTA bus station, there's a stop there, there's schools there, there's a park there, and it's a tiny intersection, and there is a lot of traffic that goes to and from I-90 or traffic from the Shoreway.
Thank you.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria. Sue Zimmerman? We all know Sue. Come on up. How are you? She always wears some nice pins on her jacket.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
always.
My name is Susan Zimmerman,
Yes.
and I don't know if you're all aware of it, but those people can hardly hear what's being said at the table, even with the microphones.
Tilt it down. Tilt this here down. Tilt your, right here. Tilt that down.
I'm sorry. Yep, there we
And,
go.
and pull it forward.
Yep, okay.
There
Okay,
you go.
so, yes,
That's
very
better.
difficult to hear. Can we
Yep.
start the 1 minute now?
We'll start it down. Right.
So, yeah,
got
everything
you, Sue.
everybody already said, but mainly the priority is the safety of our children. Kids are on their way to the park, the recreation area, the school. We already have 2 convenience stores within walking distance. We already have 15 gas stations within 2 miles. We are a historic district, and electric vehicle chargers and cappuccino machines do not belong in a historic district. But mainly, the issue is the risk to the children who cross that intersection every single day. It's only a matter of time until one is killed or seriously injured. And Maria mentioned a gas station that used to be on that property. That was before I-90. When I-90, the exit from I-90 on West Boulevard opened, traffic dramatically increased. It's a shortcut now to the Shoreway for people from Westlake and Rocky River and Bay Village and all those fancy suburbs. A lot of traffic. Very
Thank you.
dangerous.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Jay Westbrook?
Councilman Jay Westbrook.
Yes. Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
How are you, sir?
Members of the Development, Planning, and Sustainability Committee.
Yes,
We used to
Councilman.
know it as Community Development.
That's right.
Before you start the timer on me, I would like to draw to your attention that this is also published as a public meeting as well as a council meeting. And as a public meeting, I think the public should be afforded the opportunity to speak to this in more detail than just to count their heads and say for and against. There's a lot of substance to this, and that's what I'm going to spend a brief amount of time addressing, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, and
Members
if
of
I
the
can respond to
committee.
you, Mr. Councilman Westbrook, if there is additional comments that anyone would like to submit, please, they can submit them in writing to the committee. We have a healthy agenda today that we are trying to get through. It is no slight or disrespect to the issue itself. But if there is any additional comments that you would like to, well, we'll start them over. Any comments that you would like to, absolutely. Well, we will happily take those comments or questions or concerns in writing. Okay? Thank you, Councilman.
Well, I hope, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I hope any supplemental comments that are in writing would be afforded an opportunity to be studied and read over before the committee votes. And you're in a unique position, this committee, because it goes to no other committees. You're the only committee dealing with this rather abrupt departure from the way in which zoning is normally done. As a
Councilman, I'm not sure what you're implying about abrupt departure from the way
Yes.
zoning is happening. Zoning can happen many different ways. Because it has been done one way does not mean it cannot be done another way. The city council has the legal right and authority to draft and issue or introduce zoning changes. So, Mr. Westbrook, I would ask that you please start your comments. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Zoning is a unique element of the city code, and it is based on the idea that the public has input in shaping the zoning, and people can buy a house, start a business, or go to a park with an expectation that the zoning that is defined for the area is the zoning that they can count on in the future. If zoning is changed, there would be an opportunity, and that's why I'm addressing the process, Mr. Chairman. There would be an opportunity, for significant public input, and that's what Mr. Armstrong referred to in 2013 as a very, very collaborative process where the city council, I happened to be the councilman at that time, led and worked with the community, didn't just say, oh, this is what I want. It was what the community wants. And why? Because Cadell is a very special place. It was donated to the city by the Cadell family and as green space. And over the last couple of decades, it has been additionally shaped into a public commons. Very much like with Saturday, I saw Councilman McCormick at the marketplace. That's a public commons. I don't see a gas station going there. And just down the street was a place where McDonald's wanted to go, and now it's a health center. So the public input and the public expectation about zoning should take a high priority, for the council. So, Mr. Chairman, I don't. Secondly, I know that the committee has heard from the zoning department. There has been a zoning process that was followed where the Board of Zoning Appeals was packed with many, many people opposed to this. So this is very much against the grain of the public attitude. This park is nearly a sacred park. There are two officers who have fell in the line of duty that have been recognized at this park. And of course, there is the very important and precious site where Tamir Rice lost his life.
Yes.
And so, Mr. Chairman, that reminds me of an abuse of power, where a police officer has the power to use a gun, but they're expected
Thank you, Councilman.
to restrain that power in a respectful way. And that's what I'm
Yes.
asking the council to do.
Thank you, Councilman Westbrook. Thank you for your comments. All right, we have Rose. I can't read your last name. I'm sorry. Rose. That's a pretty fancy cursive there. All right, come on up.
Good morning. My name is Rose Colon.
Put the mic closer to you. You pull up a little more. Yes.
There.
Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Rose.
Good morning. My
Rose,
name
what's
is
your last name?
Colon.
Cologne? Okay.
Yes.
What ward do you live in?
What do you mean?
You on Madison?
Yeah, I'm
Or
on Madison,
You're in
yeah.
You're in Councilman Kelly's ward?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe So,
All right, I'm sorry. I'm trying to read the writing here, the address and the name. Go ahead, Rose.
okay. So, like I said, my name is Rose Colon, and I'm here to express my support for the recognizing of Madison Avenue. I urge the council to stand behind the initiative as well, as this area was recognized 13 years ago as done as under the presence of preserving a pedestrian retail character that they painted pictured as through Madison Avenue was intended to resemble area like Cracker Park in this pedestrian retail character. But in reality, this characterized was far from accurate. Like the Strip right now, we have so many vacant properties right now. We had a high school there, which was vacant, then it was replaced with Dollar General. We have 2 Spanish restaurants, which were vacant. We have the CVS, which is vacant. We also had other corner stores around the area. I've been there since I was 17 years old, and they promised. And what happened with Madison Avenue? We need to go do better.
Thank you, Rose. All right. And now, I couldn't read Rose's last name, but Mo, I really can't read your last name on here. Mo, come on up. I'm sorry, Mo. Good morning. To Will. Okay. There we go. Thank you, Mo.
Yeah, my name is Mo, and I'm in support of the gas station over there at Madison. They say that it's dangerous over there, but the traffic count is already really high, and the building's been vacant for a long time. I think of Thrush Park, and there's a gas station and a convenience store on the other side. And I don't see a problem with retail next to the park. And the building's been vacant for a long time as well. So I feel like it'd bring life to the area. I think I don't see how it could be dangerous if the owners stay on top of the business. They could have security if they need it. But if the neighborhood is a good neighborhood, I don't think it would attract riffraff. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm looking at your address. Are you in Councilman Kelly's?
Yes.
Are you in Councilman Kelly's
Yes.
ward? Okay. All right. I'm sorry. We had one on the last page. Andrew DeFantis.
Good morning.
How are you? Good morning.
Good. Thank you, committee members. My name is Andrew DeFreitas. I live on West 106th, no problem. Gas stations are absolutely necessary, but I do not believe it's necessary here. Certainly not necessary enough to override the recommendations of the city's various expert entities and the vocal opinions of the residents. None of us want to see vacant buildings, particularly these pharmacy-style complexes, which can be difficult to fill, but I am happy to add my name and voice and opinion to the efforts to oppose to this measure. With the additional development around the nearby Rapid Station in particular, I have to believe there are better marketable alternatives coming forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Andrew, what ward do you live in?
I live in Councilwoman Spencer's ward.
Thank you. Next we have Khalid. Khalid, come on up. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, committee. I never thought I'd see myself on the opposite side of Councilman Jay Westbrook, who was my councilman for 34 years. But here we go. I'd like to thank you for all the hard work that you do and that you're doing. We support the change in the proposed zoning. Number one. Number two, to assume that gas stations will increase violence in the neighborhood is really a bad argument. You can blame drugstores for selling drugs. It's going to increase drug traffic. The issue of negotiating with the city of Cleveland for the purchase, there is no offer currently on the table to purchase this property. So I don't know where they're coming up with this idea. And really, the other thing too is there's a ton of businesses or a ton of vacant properties on Madison Avenue and in the area that they're vacant. And I talked to a homeowner a couple of months ago that lives in front of one of the vacant properties and asked us, "Hey, you guys are purchasing the CVS. Can you consider purchasing this property here as well?" So we thank you for all the hard work you do and look forward to passing this proposed zoning change. Thank you.
Thank you. I absolutely don't know the other name on here. I don't know if it's anybody else who signed up. That is it you, ma'am? Okay, come on up. I don't know what the other name of this on here, but they scribbled up. All right, come on up. You have 1 minute. Councilman, can you start the timer? All right, thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
morning.
My name is Lisa Edwards, and I am in favor to move the zoning forward. We have no objection for the project, and I am a resident on West 98th.
Okay, thank you. Is that Ward 11?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, looks like that's it. Who we have signed up for public?
Chairman, where would we send our comments?
I'll give instructions. Give me 1 second. That closes the public comment portion of the meeting. We will go to the committee for questions. Committee, Councilwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Chairman Hairston. First, as my colleagues can imagine, it gives me no pleasure to speak openly in opposition today to this ordinance because it is co-sponsored by our valuable colleagues, Councilman Danny Kelly, and our committee chairman, Councilman Anthony Hairston. It gives me no pleasure to do this today. I learned a long time ago when I joined council about the importance of respecting ward boundaries. And in almost every case, council members do not oppose legislation supported by the colleague in their ward. That's a practice of council, but I'm absolutely compelled to speak in opposition, and I'm going to share why. First, it is not Councilman Kelly's fault, nor my fault, that this parcel is located within a completely gerrymandered part of our wards, known as the Scorpion's Tail, which was created in redistricting over a decade ago to make sure that Ward 11 would include former Councilwoman Donna Brady's house. Okay? So if you drew a concentric circle with this parcel in the middle, about 75% of the parcels you would encounter would be Ward 15, and about 25% would be Ward 11. So I need to represent my constituents on this matter. As you all heard, this parcel is also adjacent to Cadell Commons Park, a heavily advocated for green space, which members of this body will recall hearing about many times on the council floor during public comment. What I can tell you is that I have heard more from my constituents on this specific zoning issue than on almost any other issue I have encountered in my entire time on council. So in addition to my desire to represent my constituents, I am going to share the reasons for my opposition to this zoning piece, which are technical. First, spot zoning. I do not encourage us as a body to set a precedent of spot zoning. This must be considered very seriously by members of this body. We are setting a precedent with this. In most cities, spot zoning is not allowed for the benefit of one individual or set of individuals unless it benefits the comprehensive plan for the area. And we heard about that plan from our Director of Planning and Ms. Leonard this morning. Second, the existing zoning, as we have heard, includes a pedestrian retail overlay, which was set up with broad community support in 2013. Like any planning tool, the overlay and current zoning express a desired and aspirational future state concerning the highest and best uses for the parcel in all of Madison Avenue. I cannot overstate the degree to which Madison Avenue embodies the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of the Cadell community. It is the Cadell neighborhood's downtown, main commercial thoroughfare, and heartbeat. This is a highly visible corner parcel and a defining one for the Cadell neighborhood. Third, changing from local retail to general retail would expose the community to a great deal of risk. There's a possibility that any deal in the making that individuals such as Mr. Bahur referred to, if that fell apart, general retail zoning exposes the community to risk. It would allow for a wide range of potentially noxious uses, including adult entertainment, auto repair, or auto sales. It is a level of risk I am not personally comfortable with. I do not accept it. Traffic safety. I note valid concerns about existing dangerous traffic patterns on West Boulevard and at the Madison West Boulevard intersection. If any of you have traveled through this convoluted intersection, you would note how strange and irregular the traffic patterns are. This is because the intersection was never historically West Boulevard. The curvilinear nature of the new West Boulevard has reduced sight lines and is notorious for speeding. As you have heard, it is a highly pedestrian area, including safe passage for kids going back in school to Marion C. Seltzer. As you've heard today, many of my residents have reached out with safety concerns vis-a-vis traffic coming in and out of new curb cuts that would need to be created if a gas station were to go into place. Finally, the community does have hopes and aspirations that this site will become a fire station. And about a week ago today, I had the chance to talk to Councilman Kelly. We talked about the fact that there were discussions underway within the city about the possibility of acquiring this for a fire station. Axios reported on that in the fall. I heard no one refute that. It is my understanding that there are active and viable negotiations underway. So my question is, it seems premature to vote on a rezoning piece today until that negotiation has had the opportunity to run its full course and conclude. So, Mr. Chair, I will be voting no on this piece today if you call for a vote. As an alternative, this committee should consider holding this piece until the result of the fire station process has concluded. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman House, did you have I know you had grabbed the mic. Councilwoman McCormack.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate that, and appreciate the robust dialogue here today with opposition and support of this ordinance. And Mr. Chairman, let me just say, number one, in a committee process, the structure of public comment is the prerogative of the chair. This council is the one that actually brought public comment to Cleveland City Council, which was never here before. So I want to just clarify that to you, Chairman. Just a couple questions on my end, Chair, on this ordinance. And I think one of the reasons, especially with the zoning piece, that council members rely so heavily on that elected member is because that's democracy. So we talk about democracy a lot in our community. If my residents don't like something that I've done, or they do like something I've done, they have the opportunity to weigh their voice to me, not only electorally, but in other mechanisms. That's what democracy is supposed to be. So the reason that if I've got a zoning piece in my ward that, or a project, we just, Mr. Chairman, are excited to welcome new affordable housing to our community. I was the one that ran those public meetings, Mr. Chair. I'm the one that are hearing for those residents. I'm the one attending those block clubs. So when I make a decision with the city to sponsor legislation, for example, to sell that parcel for affordable housing, it's because I was in my block clubs. It's because I was running community meetings. It's because I hear from residents. Our community was really excited about that project. For those that are not excited about that project, which, believe it or not, some are not, they won't vote for me. Or, the last time around, Mr. Chairman, there are things that in the community folks weren't happy with, and they decided to take that out on me in the democratic way, call my office. And so when we think about why that's important for a sponsor to be directly in contact with their voting residents, this is why. Mr. Chair, on this piece, I'm glad that we've got the commissioner here today. So chair to the committee, the responsibility of public safety in the roadway is the responsibility of the city of Cleveland. And trust me, I wrote the Complete and Green Streets ordinance. I wrote the temporary pedestrian ordinance. I wrote the shared mobility ordinance. I wrote the decorative street paint ordinance. I sit on the TIAC committee. Big fan of Cleveland Moves. The city is making a lot of progress here. So I guess my question is, the administration is showing an opposition to this project. What traffic data have you presented today signaling that prior, current, or future uses will be detrimental from a public safety perspective? So what data has been brought to the committee today?
To the councilman through the chair, there's a slide in the presentation that addresses traffic safety specifically.
With data?
Yes, with
Can
crash
you bring that back up?
information.
For this intersection?
Yes.
Where are we? So that's under the current use, a vacant building?
That's the crash data from 2017 to 2021, which I believe is before the building was vacant. I remember getting COVID tests here. So
Got it.
I believe it shut down around 2021 or so.
And this crash data was specifically related to
This intersection.
the intersection, but what about the building and parcel in question?
It's related to the frontage of the roadways around this building, which include the intersection and the block that it encompasses.
So knowing from 2017 till today that we've had this crash data, what improvements has the city put forward for this intersection?
We have had some conversations with residents about restriping West Boulevard between Detroit and Madison to change from 4 lanes to 3. There have been no improvements to the intersection beyond conversation today.
Okay, thank you. And Chair, to the folks at the table today, and I'm not picking on them because Director Mersman is one of the leading advocates on road safety here. My point in this is individual property owners are not responsible for the road safety on our public right-of-way. That's our job.
Right.
So our job is to put in bump outs. Our job is to put in speed tables. Our job is to shrink intersections. Our job is to remove vehicular lanes where they're not needed. That is the responsibility of the city of Cleveland to operate within the right-of-way. So I'm always hesitant. While I understand the conversation around the curb cuts, and I'm going to ask a question about that in a minute, that's our job. That's not a homeowner's job. That's not a business's job. The city's job is to keep our roads safe. So let's just clarify that. The second question I have, Chair, to the team here, the city of Cleveland historically has worked with drive uses to limit curb cuts or change the way they look or create, for example, service stations that have a lot more frontage so they're more walkable. Has the city engaged, and again, I'm be honest, I'm not embedded in this project like Councilman Kelly is, so these are more general questions, but has the city engaged either the councilman or this property owner on the use and potential safety measures for this property?
To the councilman through the chair, 2 items along your line of questioning. The first is around gas stations in general and crash data around gas stations that are operating across the city. We've had staff that are looking at those around gas stations as a use and the intersections near them. And that data and analysis does reveal that there are increased crashes around gas stations. So that's sort of a big picture concern for us. And we're looking at what we can do to increase safety at intersections near gas stations specifically.
So, but specific to this ordinance, because the administration has come to the table opposing it. Has there been any specific efforts with this property owner, the councilman, or any proposed use to improve a future outcome on this in this parcel?
Director.
To your point, Councilman, through the chair, a lot of the safety does involve the specific locations of curb cuts and those traffic patterns going through gas station sites. Should this rezoning be passed, the applicant would go through our typical city process of design review. When we have a site plan, we will work with them to our utmost ability to make this as safe a site, regardless of the use. Whatever the use is, they'll go through our process of design review, landmarks review, and we'll make that as safe as possible. I'll also allow Ms. Leonard to speak to that.
Yeah, through the chair to the councilman. So the site is a challenging site, right? So the CVS already exists. So a CVS is about somewhere between 10,000, 12,000 square feet. The proposal here is for a gas station. The only place to put the pumps without taking down the building is in that empty parking lot. So that, as you can imagine, also limits where the driveways go. And that's why this is currently zoned with the local retail, with the pedestrian retail overlay district here next to the park.
And, Chairman, to the team here from the city, is it accurate that the current fire code requires ingress and egress on both sides of the station? The answer is yes. I don't want to give you a trick question.
It is yes.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Just one second here.
Excuse me. Okay. But give us 1 second. We can't holler from the audience.
So current.
Hold on, Councilman.
sorry,
If you can't hear, if you got a question, just talk to our clerk, and she will let us know. Thank you.
So, and again, I don't know the owner. I don't know the proposal uses. This is not my ward. I'm just kind of thinking big picture here. So right now in Ward 3 on Lorraine Avenue, Fire Station 4 is out of compliance. And the reason it's out of compliance is because it does not have an external drive for fire trucks to pull in and out of. So fire stations require both an entry in the front and an entry in the back. Very wide curb cuts. So I just just want to be clear here, and maybe a fire station is the right use here. Again, I'm not involved in those conversations. If a fire station were to be built here, you would most likely be expanding the frontage of curb cuts. I just want everyone to be clear of that. So fire stations require an ingress and an egress on the front and the back of the building. So in this case, you would have most likely a large curb cut on the side here and a large curb cut on Madison Avenue as well. So I love a fire station. They're critically important for our community, but I want to be clear that a fire station would be illegal under today's code. Is that accurate?
I would have to see a site.
So would a pedestrian
Chair.
retail, so the current site right now, Mr. Chairman, because it's 6 months out of commission, would require a permission or a variance for a new curb cut, is that correct?
A variance?
Or a planning commission approval for additional curb cut? The current curb cuts are not grandfathered in, is that correct?
That you would need a conditional use under the PRO.
Okay, so you
to
need a,
have
correct.
to either utilize the current drive-throughs or to
Create a new drive-through.
to create a new
Right,
drive-through.
so whether this is a bakery, a gas station, a fire station, a daycare center, if you wanted to utilize the current curb cuts or add new curb cuts, you'd require a conditional approval under the current zoning.
Yes, through the chair to the commission member, yes, you would need a conditional use under the pedestrian retail overlay
Okay.
district for the driveways over.
So a fire
a public
station on
sidewalk.
this site is not allowed outright.
If you consider it that in terms of the use is, but the site conditions would need either conditional uses or
Right,
variances. That's
okay. I
correct.
just wanted to make that point.
So so I'm clear, Councilman, that's a no.
It's a no, correct.
The use is a by right, the site conditions are
zoning is not, right.
That's correct.
So I want to be clear here, whatever the desired future use of is here, the current zoning as it is today prohibits a fire station outright to be built on this site. I just want to make that clear. Another question, Chair, to the administration here. We're hearing about a purchase agreement. Commissioner, thank you for joining us here today. Does the city have an active purchase agreement for this site?
Through the chair to Councilman McCormick, we do not.
You do not. Okay, so there is no purchase agreement with the city of Cleveland, and I just want to. I've heard a lot today, so for clarity for myself, I want to just understand what's going on here. Okay, and then through the chair to the team in front of us here today. The city often works with property owners to come up with desired future uses. What proposals has the city of Cleveland's administration put forward for this site?
So specifically, I believe there's been conversations around the fire station and conversations with the property owner for purchase of the property.
Okay, and then
Well,
if this zoning goes
Councilman,
through,
If
am I
I
at
can
time?
interrupt you? No, you're good. I'm interested to know prior to this, during the period that has been vacant, as relates to your question.
Through the chair to Councilman McCormick, as it relates to what could go here, I cannot speak
No,
specifically.
Councilman, excuse me. Councilman asked you, what has the city proposed between the vacancy and to the start of this process? What have the city and planning, anyone proposed to put here or has worked to bring a business owner here or find someone to occupy this space? Has that been done?
Yeah, so through the chair to the councilman, zoning doesn't normally solicit business owners to put things. However, I will say that when the property owner bought this property, he knew that it was local retail and that gas stations were prohibited.
Thank you. And Chair, you're representing the city here today, so the question is, are we aware of economic development, anyone that over the last 7 years has come forward to say, hey, there's a great use, let's put a doggy daycare, I don't know, anything here? I'm sorry, one second, I'd like
hold on one second.
I'd like the administration to respond to me, Chair.
Through the chair to the councilman, I am not aware of the
Okay.
upper level conversations that have around economic development with the council people.
Okay. And Director or Commissioner, are you aware of any proposals over the last 7 years the city's put forward there?
To the councilman through the chair, the building has been vacant for at most 4 years.
4 years,
As
I'm
you
sorry.
know, I'm new in this role, so don't know of any
aware.
specific
Okay,
proposals.
thank you.
But I'm sure that those do happen in conjunction with council quite
Okay,
often.
Councilman, I would allow Councilwoman Spencer a point.
Thank you. Point, Councilwoman Spencer.
Thank you for allowing me a couple brief points, Councilman McCormick. First, I did work really closely with former Councilman Brian Mooney, who made many solicitations to many different potential buyers for this property. One was an animal care facility and several retail type facilities. And so this property has been vacant for 4 years, and there were efforts underway. I think the new economic development staffing structure would allow for a more robust business recruitment effort here in the event the fire station were not to occur. Another very brief point about fire stations and this traffic safety matter you were inquiring about. I believe it's a totally different ballgame. Fire stations would get their own special flasher, stoplight structure that would assist with a safer environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you. Listen, big fan of fire stations. I represent a fire station on a main corridor, and rightfully so, but it absolutely disrupts traffic and pedestrian traffic. And as it should, you need your fire engines coming in and out, but want to be clear, it does. So I don't want to, and again, as it should, right, that we need them in and out, but when they're on these main commercial corridors, it does have an impact. And then, Mr. Chairman, I'm curious on this. Have you received this committee? I mean, I've heard at public comment and otherwise accusations of misdoing. Have you received any written information or any specific evidence or testimony of any wrongful doing on this piece?
Councilman McCormick, thank you. Have received no specific evidence, all hearsay and folks' opinions about
Okay,
what they believe is going
I wanted
on.
to be clear because
Yes.
it was brought up a couple times, and I just want to make sure that nothing has been submitted to the committee or to your attention of
No.
specific information. Okay, thank you. Again, Mr. Chair, this is not my ward, so I will lean on my colleague to discuss more of the public engagement and the plans for the site. But overall, I just want to again say, when we talk about road safety, is something I'm very passionate about. I don't think it's fair to put it on one property owner. That's the responsibility of the city. I hope that folks work in a collaborative method here, whatever the end use of this parcel is, that folks work together on this plan. And again, at the end of the day, the elected officials in the area are responsible for talking to the residents and dealing with the decisions they make. I've been here 9 years. I fully understand that. There are decisions that I've made that people have loved. There are decisions I've made that some people like, some people don't. It's the nature of the job. But I appreciate this conversation here today, Mr. Chair. And again, I would emphasize that, I actually have one more question, I'm sorry, Chair, that popped in my head, and then I'll yield. So Chair to Ms. Leonard, if a fire station is the end use of this proposal, would this, from the current zoning to the proposed zoning, would the proposed zoning reduce the amount of, let's say, permits or changes of use required for a fire station?
Through the chair to the councilman, no.
So if the pedestrian retail overlay was removed, would they still need a conditional use to curb
Okay,
cut?
yeah, to clarify, so they would not need a conditional use,
Right.
but they'd still need building permits and have to
Oh,
go
sure,
through
sure.
landmarks
Building
review.
permits.
The same
I understand all that.
process,
I'm
yep.
saying, but specific to the zoning that's being proposed of removing the PRO, would that allow for more outright construction of a fire station?
Yes, through the chair to the councilman, it would.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield.
Thank you. So we're clear. So removing they will not need the conditional use if the PRO is removed. So for a fire station. So if I'm hearing correctly, so doing this will allow for the fire station, if that's what the community and the councilman and the administration makes happen, that they will not need a conditional use. They will have to go through that process of conditional use. And that answer is no, if that is the case, correct?
On
Well,
this
yes,
specific parcel, that's correct, but it
Got
would be
it.
the only parcel in the district on this side of the street that would not need that.
Sure, but we're discussing this parcel here today, and what we have heard are the uses. And so as Councilman McCormick has laid out, that even a fire station, removing the PRO will allow the fire station to go here legally and without having to have conditions placed on the fire station moving here with this parcel. So, thank you. Councilman Harsh? Yes. Yeah, Councilman Harsh and then Councilwoman House Jones.
I'm up? Okay,
Yes.
great. So, Mr. Chairman, it's opening day in Cleveland. baseball, apple pie, and what's more American than arguing about cars and gasoline? So here we are. This is probably a political live wire, and I would probably be best advised to just vote and walk out of the room. But I do find this to be a fascinating subject, and I'm going to comment on it a little bit. First off, I just want to point out to everybody that I have two colleagues, two very highly esteemed colleagues at this table who are not seeking re-election and who are essentially sunsetting their career in Cleveland City Council. Neither of them have anything to lose or gain on this subject, and they've both come to opposite conclusions. Because I think this is just a really good example of a good old-fashioned disagreement. And it's okay for people to have differing opinions on this subject. This is a policy issue. This is not a character issue. This is simply a matter of what's best for the neighborhood. And this is why people run for office, to sit at this table and make difficult decisions like this. So to the substance of the arguments, I think it's important to point out, Mr. Chair, that we spot zone every single week in this city. We might not do it by ordinance, but the Board of Zoning Appeals hears requests every single week and grants variances that live with that parcel in perpetuity forever. And sometimes the Board of Zoning Appeals grants variances over the objection of council members. Sometimes they deny variances over the request of council members. And sometimes council members and administration are all in agreement on variances, whether they be supported or opposed. But the outcome is essentially functionally the same. Zoning is only a law when we want it to be a law, and it's actually one of the biggest head scratchers that I've had since getting onto council is that zoning is very much just up to our whims. We can decide whether or not to enforce zoning, grant variances to zoning, change zoning. It happens all the time. It's a major part of our work down here. And it might be the case that bringing it via ordinance is not super common, but I'm reminded that when I worked at Metro West and I was trying to figure out why there were so many automotive repair shops on Clark, it's because in the late 90s, we rezoned all of Lorraine Avenue to do away with auto repair because they didn't want all the car shops taking up the spaces that they wanted to redevelop into what we now know as Ohio City. So they rezoned all of Lorraine Avenue. It was a really big to-do back then. I don't know that any of us were here. But all those shops moved down to Clark, and that zoning change effectively pushed one neighborhood's problem into another neighborhood. And it's just simply a matter of fact that there are uses that people don't want in their neighborhood. There will always be uses that people don't want in their neighborhood. You know, Mr. Chair, in my neighborhood, I hate to say this out loud, but it's just true, I send everything to Brook Park. You want a gas station? Cool, do it on Brook Park. You want a pot shop? Cool, Brook Park. It's the border with Parma. It's on the other side of a highway. It's down there. It's industrial. We do recycling of waste material down on Brook Park. I never thought that allowing a Sheetz gas station to go in on Brook Park would turn out to be the biggest headache in my life. Sheetz wanted to build a gas station on Brook Park. I said, cool. You know, it's an empty building. It's not doing anything. Put in a Sheetz. That Sheetz is the biggest headache in my ward. It's become a car culture hotspot. The kids go down there, they rev engines, it's loud. The owner of the parking lot doesn't have the wherewithal or interest in enforcing his own parking lot, so I have neighbors calling me all the time. It's just a constant headache. Never thought it would be a problem, but hey, you make decisions, you live with them. But my point is, we make alterations to zoning constantly, every single week, and we will continue to do that. And to me, this isn't really much different in terms of a spot zone than granting a variance, because we can also go back through ordinance and change it again later. And I guarantee you, over the course of this city's existence and this city's demise in a couple thousand years, we will change zoning again. So there are lots of other issues, traffic counts, crashes, you know, can't get into the causes of all that. Land value to the ownership. Of course, all land has value to owners, and that will never change. 1,000 feet, 1,100 feet from the EPA, I bet there are schools that are within 1,000 feet all over the city. I think one thing that we all agree on is that if this gas station gets built, and essentially we don't know that there's sort of like a little unknown. We don't know if this is going to be a gas station or a fire department, but I think people believe that if it were a gas station, people would use it. I think we would assume that if it were a gas station, the people using it would be people in the neighborhood. I don't think people from Lakewood are going to dip down to Madison to grab gas on their way to downtown. I think it's going to be people in the neighborhood, if it ends up getting used, they're going to end up using this. And as it's already been demonstrated, we're going to have to do some of this anyway if a fire station does go in there. So I also, this is a separate parcel from the park, whether it was a drugstore or something else. It's not park property. We're not taking away from the park. It's a commercial property one way or another adjacent to it. So I think that the reason I'm going to support this is that it gets back to Councilman McCormick's point about democracy. I'm glad that there are so many neighbors here that are opposed to this, and I'm glad that there are neighbors here in favor of this. I'm glad the neighborhood cares about what goes on here. But I also think that people that run for city council do so that they can make decisions that they think are going to benefit their neighborhood, and that, getting back to Councilwoman Spencer's point, it is our, I don't know if it's tradition or just best practice, to allow that discrepancy amongst council members. So if this turns into the Sheetz gas station on Brook Park for my colleague, Councilman Kelly, and it blows up in his face, it's blown up in his face, his problem. If it doesn't, it's not. It's a decision that I think needs to be made by the councilman. If that's the decision he makes, and I support him, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Councilman Harsh. We'll allow a brief point by Councilwoman Spencer, because we do have more items on our agenda. We have to kind of move along a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me a brief point, Councilman Harsh. I wanted to briefly speak to your comments about the zoning and the city's practices for zoning. I want to remind members of this committee that when this was heard by Board of Zoning Appeals about a year ago, it was unanimous opposition. The entire Board of Zoning Appeals voted against this map change. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman House Jones.
Yes, good morning, everyone. So I have been listening. It's so interesting having this dialogue. First, I want to, I appreciate Councilmember Spencer for actually taking the time to talk with me about this. And this is one of those things of, while we talk about this position, where the, this parcel is, right? It's the, and I'm kind of trying to get a clarification. Who has the majority of the residents that's close to this parcel? Because this is something, and again, I would appreciate, and I'm going to just put it on the record, I would have appreciated if the actual sponsors would have actually took the time to actually talk to me about this. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's one of the things that I pride myself on. If there's something that I want to bring before this body, having, just having, a legal collegial, because I'm not in your area. I don't know the conversations, to have a real conversation, to be like, hey, this is what's going on, this is the context, and this is why I would want your support or not if you actually valued my voice. You know what I'm saying? And so now I look crazy because I'm here at the table and I have to ask these questions because no one actually took the time to actually confirm me, the sponsors, but actually Councilmember Spencer did. So now if the sponsors could actually tell me I don't even know whose constituents really have are closest to where this decision is going to be. And I know it's the number, but then, you hear the conversation about it was gerrymandered 10 years ago, so it really isn't. I know it's in this number. I do not know. So if somebody here can enlighten me, and I was between Councilmember Spencer, Councilmember Harrison, and Councilman Kelly, let me know about that point.
Councilwoman House Jones, I'll start off and I'll let the other two council people weigh in. Regardless if it was gerrymandered, regardless if it's a scorpion's tail, regardless if it was to keep Donor Brady's house in the ward, that is not the matter of discussion here today. The matter of discussion here today is that it sits in Councilman Kelly's ward, Ward 11. And from me looking at the map and from me driving the area, I believe that there is yes, there's residents in Ward 15 that'll be affected. As you see here today, most of the folks here are from the neighboring ward, Ward 15. But you also have residents that are here from Ward 11. And if I recall from BZA, there was multiple residents that actually were from Ward 11 who attended that hearing, and I believe the CDC, who actually represents Ward 11, also was in support of the zoning change or the variance that was requested early on as well. So I don't think that we would ever, I mean, you would never really know how many residents are here versus another, right? And so I think as it relates to the matter at hand today, as it relates to the zoning, regardless of who has more, who has less, we hear from folks in both communities, and it's for us as this body to make a decision whether we are going to support the request that is being made here today. Councilwoman Spencer, then Kelly.
Thank you for that question, Councilwoman House Jones. I can tell you that due to the very irregular nature of the ward boundary, my ward is directly across the street on the south side of Madison Avenue. If you were to put this in the center of a circle and draw a circle, 75% of that circle is Ward 15. There are some apartment buildings in Councilman Kelly's ward, but the majority of his ward in this area are industrial buildings, not residential. The majority of individuals who would be impacted by this are currently my constituents. I will also add that for those in the audience today, about half of you, those I know who gave public comment today, about half are currently my constituents, but with the redistricting would be then become constituents in the future Ward 12, in which Councilman Kelly is running in that race to represent. So it's people are Ward 15 residents now, but would be his in the future.
Thank you, Councilman Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair, or probably don't have to say that. We have residents here from both wards, and these are all. I mean, I've worked with some of these residents with Marion Seltzer and other things, and this time around we happen to be on a different side of the coin. Across the street from where the CVS is vacant now, I have apartments there. There's about 80-some apartments there, and then the streets going down there, 3 or 4 blocks of my streets. I did go door to door, knock to those people. Those people are in my Ward 11 at the time, and there wasn't that much of opposition to having this parcel not be vacant anymore. It's not just a gas station. We hear a lot about a gas station here, and we are in negotiations for a firehouse. I believe a firehouse. I think Milady Spencer, the same thing, and administration would like to have a firehouse here. I think that's the best thing for the community. I don't negotiate. I'm not the developer. I'm not the administration. We had this coming up before about 6 months ago, and this came up that possibly it could be a firehouse. Would I pull it, and would we try and get that deal done? I did that. It's been going on 6 months now. The deal hasn't culminated yet. It's not off the table, but I have an obligation to try and have an unoccupied building occupied. I believe that I have a lot of residents that look right at it every day. They didn't feel that it would be bad, not just as a gas station, it was going to be a Papa John's and a bank. And now the administration is just engaged into contract with KeyBank and Bank from America that they will start putting banks into the inner city. You know, I got rid of the Go-Go joint over Lido's or Lido's, whatever it's called. We have a Bank of America there. You know, and the Bank of America is one of the entities that was in my ward that was looking to go there. This has become passionate. This has become heated. I hear a lot of negative things about a gas station. There's no guarantee it's going to be a gas station, first of all. But it is a vacant building. And me and, I work for CMSD fraud, and I can tell you, vacant, unoccupied buildings on kids walking to school is not a good thing. Bad things happen, okay? It's also next to a park. You say, well, we can't have something like this next to a park. Once again, vacant, unoccupied building next to a park is not a good thing. This is not nefarious or anything like that. I want this building occupied. I have 3 vacant drugstores in my ward. I'm trying very hard to get them not vacant. It is not easy. I have other entities in my ward that are vacant. I closed a terrible bar. It was nothing but a headache, and you know what? Now it's a smoke shop. You know what? Next door to it, there's a smoke shop too. We have legislation coming up to stop that. This place could be a smoke shop. It's difficult here. We have difficult jobs, but I will tell you, I feel that I have done and waited to 5-6 months, and now I think we're still going to negotiate. when I was hired, or when the talking construction, sorry, when I was elected to be a public servant to serve Ward 11, I was elected to do a job, not keep it. And I feel that if I just kick it down the road, I'm just keeping my job to avoid the hoopla or whatever it might be. Now, these people here, they're good people. And the people over there, they're good people. We have a difference of opinion. I think it was eloquently said, where you have two colleagues of mine that are much more eloquent than I'll ever be, and they end up on the opposite side of the coin. That happens. But I am to the point now where we're not giving up on the fire station. I think that's the best use for my community. It is not me making that deal. It's the people who are making it, are negotiating it. That isn't public. That's what's going on. But once again, I believe my residents elected me to do a job, not keep it. And this is what I feel I'm doing. I'm trying to get an unoccupied building occupied. I think that's the safest thing for my neighborhood.
Thank you. Councilman Kelly, Councilwoman House Jones.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that clarification. And so, like I said, and listening to the conversation and being a person who definitely has to make decisions where immediate constituents do not necessarily agree back and forth. I'm still trying to decide how I'm going to vote on this, because I would really, at the end of the day, I would have appreciated to have these conversations with both of the sponsors and not be put in this position. But like I said, y'all don't need my vote. Y'all gonna do what y'all gonna do. So there we are.
We got to move on. Thank you. All right, thank you. Seeing no further questions from the committee, I would like to make just a few comments. Thank you, Councilwoman House Jones, for that. I know you will recall in the most recent memory, Birth and Beautiful Communities, where we received many phone calls, many emails about the reasons not to support and what it would cause, the increase in folks there, the things that could happen around the neighborhood, the type of people, just discussing things that were said to this committee and why we should have not supported the change in use or zoning for Birth and Beautiful Communities. However, this committee believed beyond what was stated, and we thought that the best thing to do was to support the Birth and Beautiful Community Birthing Center in your neighborhood, even with opposition and with those who were supportive of the piece. I do not recall any deep conversations that were held beyond what we were discussing at the committee and those that we heard from the people who contacted us. So I just want to say that first. And Councilman Kelly, you're right. We all were sent here to do a job, not to keep a job. So there will be difficult decisions that this body has to make. And if we only govern by what we believe folks will feel about our decision or about us, then we're sadly mistaken. Then this city will get nowhere. I think that's been part of the problem that we've had over the decades, is that a lot of folks come here and they just do what they need to do to keep a job. Well, this is beyond keeping a job. This is about supporting communities. As Councilman Kelly stated, this building serves no purpose by being vacant, right? The amount of times that he has had to go and clean up needles around this site in bottles and other nefarious things around the site, and also residents, including you all who are in here today. I watched the not the protest, the rally that was there. Saw it on the news, right? And that you all did some work to clean up the property before these folks, during the time that it was in transition as relates to the ownership. So, and he also said one thing that we all are faced with every single day: vacant and blighted buildings. Ask my colleague Councilman Conwell. Look at the Save-A-Lot, not the Save-A-Lot, the Rite Aid at 105 in St. Clair. It's horrible. They tried to put chains up. It didn't matter. They broke the chains, continued to dump behind the place, on the front of the place. The weeds are sky high. It's deplorable. And as we see many of these stores closing down all across America, we are faced with this issue, these challenges about what do you do with them. These decisions are not easy. These are very tough decisions. And please, for those who are here and those who are watching, don't believe that we take this lightly, because we don't. We hear you all, for those who came down here, including future potential council members, those who are candidates in the room who chose to speak today. We hear you. We thank everyone for coming down here, those who are opposed, those who are for, because we've heard from both sides of the fence. We've heard from folks, majority in Ward 15. We heard from folks in Ward 11 as well. So again, we don't take our decision here lightly. And to the administration, you've heard the term, there's many ways to get to the finish line. The way that we sometimes do things is one way to get there. But there's also another way to get to the finish line. And this body has the full authority, the legal authority, to do what we are doing today, to rezone, to introduce zoning legislation, to change the use of a parcel, an area here in the city of Cleveland. That is the authority that the charter, that the city of Cleveland, the people here gave us. So please do not mix words and go to the public to say that we are doing something, or to the media to insinuate that we are doing something illegal or something nefarious is happening behind the curtains. As the young man said last night, there's a wizard behind the curtains. There's no wizard here. This is a councilman who has been elected to serve his community and who wants to do the best for his neighborhood. He's a walker. He is a walker, so he stays in his neighborhood, right? And like he said, he has been active and he's worked for the school district, right? So he understands what this means to not have a vacant building or try to fill it, because being in those schools, he's seen so many bad things happen. We have seen in our neighborhoods the bad things that happen to young people who have to walk past vacant and blighted structures like this that lines our streets every single day. So how about we get our building and housing department on the ball and get them on into these neighborhoods to address the vacant and abandoned structures that we have lining our streets, particularly those that are surrounding our schools, right? We had safe routes to schools and that went away. We need to bring that back. And so, you know, with that being said, there's also been discussions around the fire station. As we have heard today, in fact, removing the PRO would actually help bring a fire station here to this site, even sooner than what has been discussed, because there are conditions even with a fire station going here, right? So to those who are listening, those who are here, those who are in the media, let's be clear. As we've heard from our zoning department, this will help bring a fire station here with no conditions. No conditions. Obviously, yes, like everyone else, they'll have to go through the building and housing permitting process, design review, and others, but this will actually help bring the fire station here to the neighborhood. As Councilman Kelly indicated, while this discussion has happened, he needs a backup plan. Because let's say it doesn't happen, right? Because things happen. And if it doesn't happen, right, then he needs a backup plan to support his neighborhood, so that way he does not have to continue to field calls and get people together to go and clean up a site that is harboring bad things in the neighborhood. And from my understanding, in my conversation with Councilman Kelly to the committee, that he is also proposing a traffic plan. He is he's going to work with the city traffic engineering department to discuss how he can use some of his ward discretionary funding. Again, another source of funding that the administration went against. And these are the type of plans, right? He can pay for speed tables. He can pay for other traffic calming interventions for this neighborhood. That's what we use that $4.6 million net funds for, stuff like this. And from my understanding, Councilman Kelly is looking to take some of his money, whatever happens here, to support a traffic plan to help reduce fatalities, to help calm traffic, to help just make the intersection better. Something that the administration has not done over these last 4 years, or even during the time that the CVS was open. Nothing has happened. Thank you, Councilman McCormick, for that question. Nothing. But this councilman is stepping up to take dollars that this body believes it should have to use in neighborhoods to develop a plan to calm the traffic and provide interventions in and around not only this intersection, but other places across his ward. So I thank you, Councilman Kelly, for your forward thinking. And last but not least, let me be clear. City Planning Commission recommends to this body. Is that correct, Ms. Leonard?
That's correct.
Can you turn your mic on? Just press, there you go.
Sorry, guys. That's correct. They
Thank you.
recommend approval or denial.
Thank you. So again, to those who are watching, City Planning recommends to this body. It is the prerogative of this body to uphold or deny what the Planning Commission has recommended, and that's the problem. This body, for years, has just gone along to get along. Hey, planning wants it, That's fine. Planning don't want it? That's fine. Well, there are people here who believes in their neighborhoods, who are in their neighborhoods, who are born and raised in their neighborhoods, right? Who may not always agree, and that's okay if planning commission in this body does not agree. That's fine, right? But we shouldn't go after each other in a negative way because we disagree on a policy decision. That is not okay. And what we have here today is a policy decision that we just don't agree on, and that's okay. And that doesn't mean something nefarious is happening. That doesn't mean something is going on under the table. No. It is okay for us to disagree. That's the issue. We live in a world where if you disagree, oh, it's a problem. Stop it. That is not a problem. That is okay. That's how the world turns, right? That's democracy. You can agree, you can disagree, and then you can live together to see another day. And I said that was my last point, my very last point. I hear a lot of this talk about gas stations, right? But yes, from my understanding, that was the previous plan that was submitted was for a gas station, a pizza shop, and a bank. So it amazes me how we leave out some of the other aspects of the plan, right? But it was not only a gas station that was proposed, it was also a pizza shop and a bank to go here. So for those who are here, those who are listening, do not be misled. It was not just about a gas station. It was about other activities or other retail activities on the space for the plans that I reviewed and the plans that I've seen that will go here on the site. But again, as it stands today, from my colleague to me, that there's many options on the table at the moment. So while we are fussing and fighting about a gas station, that may not even be the case come 5 or 6 months. It could be the fire station. It could be a pet groomer. It could be many other things here on this site. So again, this ordinance does not talk about any specific use. It does not. This ordinance 791-2024 does not discuss any specific use here on this site. There's many options here. There's many things that the council member and the administration are considering to go here on this parcel. So with that being said, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll? Yes.
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 Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ordinance number 791-2024 stands approved. Thank you all. Ordinance number 188-2025 by Council Members Conwell, Griffin, Santana, KZ Jones, Mara Gray, Harsh, House Jones, Slife, Starr, Hairston, and ordinance to enact new section 347.21 of the codified ordinance of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976. Okay, please, as you exit, please be mindful that we are still in session. Relating to smoke shops, we have Director of Public Health here. We have Mrs. Shannon Leonard. Here, yes. It's not? Okay. Shannon, you scared me. Yes. Yes.
He said biddy like my because of the old biddies.
Yes.
All right, we're back. You want me to kick us outside?
I'm going to do my point quick since we're mostly about zoning stuff, you know?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Here we are. I got all the answers, though, from the law department.
All right, do we have the presentation pulled up? Madam Clerk?
Yep, that's the right one. We're good.
We're good to go?
Yep, we're good.
Please, we are still in session. If you would like to conversate, please take it to the hallway. Madam Clerk, can you please escort anyone out who would like to still have a conversation in the back? Please take it to the hallway. We thank you so much. We are still in session. Thank you. All right, Director Shannon Leonard.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Again.
Yes.
Do you want me to start?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. All right, so this is,
That's right.
thank you for allowing me to be here today to go over this. I'll quickly run through this. We'll just talk about the purpose of the legislation, the background information, the proposed smoke shop amendment, the proposed window signs amendment, and then these are not part of your, I don't think you all are looking at these today, but this is a package of 4, including a criminal code amendment and a tobacco retail licensing amendment.
And just to the committee, if I can interrupt you
Yes.
quickly, we only have the 88 and 89, so we only have the window coverage in
Smoke shop.
in the smoke shop itself. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
And so the purpose of this legislation is to regulate the location of smoke shops to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of all Clevelanders. It's to protect neighborhoods from the negative externalities and secondary effects created by the concentration and clustering of such businesses. It's really to avoid and reduce the oversaturation of these types of businesses that have proliferated our city for a ton in the last couple months, and then to promote public health, safety, and welfare by encouraging walkability and prohibiting signage that is 100% opaque full window coverage in all business, industrial, and overlay districts. So just to give you a little bit of background information, this committee, as well as council and the Planning Commission, established specific uses as it pertains to state licensed adult use medical marijuana dispensaries and adult use marijuana dispensaries, cultivator processes last year. Ohioans 21 and older are legally allowed to consume or possess state licensed cannabis on December 7th, 2023, but there's also no limitations. What's really important here as it pertains to the window signage that we're presenting to you here today, and that many of you have seen throughout your community, is that the actual state licensed facilities by the state of Ohio have very important and significant regulation as it pertains to security system, as it pertains to what you're allowed to display on your shelves. And in fact, they must be locked away, and how much cannot be stored in cases for public viewing. Their hours are limited. And then also in terms of advertising, you cannot have any product likeness to be displayed to the public or directed towards children. You cannot use cartoon characters or pop icons. You're not permitted to depart from the registered name, so you can't use slang terms or other similar references for cannabis products, paraphernalia, and other mediums towards the public right-of-way or on public property. And then you cannot suggest or indicate location of the product has been falsely endorsed by the division. So many signs in your communities are claiming to be dispensaries when in fact they are not. And the division must approve all depictions, representations, and branding of the state licensed facilities. And so again, this is letting you know those current regulations for those state licensed facilities or local retail districts, not within 500 feet of churches, parks, schools, daycares, rec centers, and libraries. And so just to give you and the public aware, the only state licensed facilities in Cleveland that are retail state licensed facilities are the ones on this list. As you can see, there's only 7, and each of them must show this division of cannabis control in their window. This is the symbol that the state requires them to put in a displayable place for the public to view. And so just as we kind of walked through this when we went through the state licensed facilities, this is just give you an idea of what they look like on the inside here and around the Northeast Ohio area region. And so going into the background information on this, we heard you loud and clear during the adoption of those regulations about the smoke shops popping up on every corner in the city. And so I worked with the Director of Public Health as well as the Law Department and the Mayor's Office to kind of, how do we assess this? And so it's part of the 4 that we'll talk about quickly. But in terms of the proposed smoke shop legislation, these are actual smoke shops within the city of Cleveland. As you can see that they're floor to ceiling in products. They also have some very interesting advertising. And so there's no current regulations currently. There were 42 formal permit applications that came in from January 1st to March when this went to Planning Commission. From March until I saw HHS last week, we were up to over 67, and in the last week we've received about 15 more. And so that's just people coming in for permits. And so a smoke shop is defined. We realized we needed to define what a smoke shop was in the code. It's any retail establishment at which 20% or more of the floor, shelf, and/or display areas individually or in the aggregate is used for the sale of smoke shop products that we list in the legislation. Some of those include kratom, CBD, Delta-8, and other cannabinoids. They also sell tobacco and nicotine products. They sell things known as vapes or electronic smoking devices, and any accessories to the above, so papers, cigars, water pipes, etc. This does exclude state-licensed marijuana facilities, which are regulated by the state and in the other section of the code under 347.191. What you see here on this map here is a little old at this point, but these were new permits in the past 6 months. So as of March 2025, what you're seeing in yellow is what we think are the existing smoke shops. And when I say existing, they're based on a Google or other data throughout the city, but they're not necessarily the number of actual permits, whereas the red stars are for people that have actually come in for permits since the past 6 months. And so this is also giving you a different view of smoke shops as a heat map showing you where the aggregate of them are coming in. They are on the near west side, specifically Councilwoman Santana. You are the proud representative of, maybe not proud, but you are the representative of where we're seeing the concentrated permits coming in from. That's not to say that these are not concentrated in every ward person's, council person's ward across the city. They just may not have come in for a permit. So the regulations are any new smoke shops have to be at least 2 miles from an existing smoke shop. No smoke shop shall be located or relocated within 500 feet from a church, public library, public playground, public park, or school. And then we must maintain a map. The city planning department will maintain a map of smoke shop locations and other information necessary to determine compliance with the spacing regulations. And so the second part of this second ordinance is Ordinance 189, and it's enacting 350 to limit window sign coverage to the maximum of 25% of all window area. So each facade is going to be considered separately. All windows and glass portions of doors pertains to all temporary and all permanent signs. Transparent signs are measured also. And so this is really important because under our current code, there is it's a little bit conflicting in terms of window signage. It's regulated under a square footage percent calculation with window signs, but there's a lot of consternation between enforcement officers and business owners, what considered temporary versus what's considered permanent. So we're just recommending here across the board that no more than 25% of your window facade, each window facade, including doors and windows, all glazing, can only be a maximum of 25%. And so why is this important? It's very important for public safety, making sure that we have eyes on the street. As we have more walkable corridors or push for more walkable corridors, we want people to be able to see in and out of stores, not only for people in the public, but also the store owners themselves. They need to be able to see what's going on the outside. This is also an example of what we're seeing in terms of the smoke shops and covering full coverage windows of what's going on in their stores, and then using words such as mints dispensary, blunts, pre-rolls, flour, basically listing everything and anything that they sell. And this is typically can be found directly across the street from either rec centers or schools. Here's another one. I understand that we're seeing weed dispensaries across the board, and these are not actual legitimate dispensaries. So I'm working with the law department to see what the state regulations are around false advertising, and so that these should not be permitted at all. In fact, I don't believe any of these have actual permits, and if they were to come in, they would be denied. But we are seeing this across the board at these smoke shops. This is another example of pretty much full coverage window signage. And what is pushing the limit for the 25%. And so the 25% is not just limited to smoke shops, it's limited to all stores that have been having this problem across the city, that most people, we've received a lot of complaints from citizens and other council folks regarding, the full coverage windows and how it's a safety issue. So I will turn this over to the director. This part, I don't believe is what you're looking at, but it is part of the overall package, and I think it's important. Is that okay? Yes. All right.
Yeah. Thank you. And I'll try and go through this quickly since this legislation won't be considered today, but hopefully we'll hear in finance on Monday. So 186 is a piece that will be heard on Monday, which is just updating the language to the state law regarding Tobacco 21. You will recall that City of Cleveland passed Tobacco 21 a few years before the state. We led the way, and so that's what 186 will do. 187 is setting up new enforcement from the health department on all tobacco retailers in the City of Cleveland. So this is inclusive of smoke shops as well as any store that is selling nicotine products. So that can include convenience store, grocery store, gas stations, flea markets, any mobile tobacco retailer. We don't have a good estimate to the current number of these. There is a state tax ID license that these shops are supposed to get, but we don't have a sense of whether or not they're getting it before putting the system into place. So this is what that would look like. So tobacco retailer in Cleveland would need to have a retail license after this legislation is passed. If they don't have a license and they're still selling nicotine products, they would get a cease and desist order. And this is the same process that we do for restaurants today. If they operate without a license, we do a cease and desist. Backwards. So tobacco retailers. So we would have a checklist for enforcement with these tobacco retailers, making sure they're not selling to folks under 21 years old, making sure that they have the complete signage saying Tobacco 21. That's the state law that we would be enforcing. And we would enforce that window advertising section that you heard of. That some component of that has been on the books for a number of years, but there wasn't a clear enforcement strategy legislated tied to it. So we would go in there with a checklist of our health inspectors to say, those examples that Mrs. Leonard were showing. We would then say, hey, you have to remove this from your window. If you don't, you will get exceeding fines and eventually a revoking of the license to sell. So stop there.
All right, thank you, Vice Chairwoman. Thank you for holding it down.
That was a lot of work.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Director. We have Councilwoman Santana, then McCormick, and anyone else? Councilman Harsh, and then Councilman Joe Jones. All right, Councilwoman Santana and House Jones.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Director. So I fully support this legislation. I want to say thank you, Director. You had a chance to walk my neighborhood with Councilman Conwell. It was a very interesting experience. In about less than 15 minutes, we were able to visit 4 vape shops. And I want to be clear, I'm not against smoke shops, right? Everyone has their habits. But 12, 13 vape shops in less than 2-mile radius from each other is not good for our families and children, especially when they're near schools. And the signage that is going up on these windows, right? What type of message are we sending our children? And another thing that I find is that these vape shop owners have total disregard for our community. They don't reach out to the residents, letting them know they're going to open a vape shop. They don't reach out to us. They bypass design review, they bypass city planning, and so it's just frustrating. So I know that my residents can't wait till this legislation passes. I will tell you, so there's a couple questions that I have. If the legislation passes, and I know this has been a question for many of our council members, how will the enforcement look like moving forward?
Yeah.
Very good question, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
Through the chair to the councilman, thank you for asking that question. So first and foremost, permitting will be required. So they would need a use permit to use as a smoke shop. A lot of them, as you know, is like gas stations and things like that. So they would have to, even though they have an occupancy permit to be a gas station, they will now have also a smoke shop if they meet the definition of the smoke shop. And so they will need a use permit. In terms of what they will need after that is the tobacco retail license. And then Dr. Margulis will be enforcing the tobacco retail license, which allows him, the smoke shop is a part of that, so it's not the whole thing, but it's a part of that, but it'll allow him to go into those establishments. And I'll let him speak on that.
Thank you. So through the chair, so we have 6 health inspectors who we're already starting to train up for these inspections. We have checklists that we borrowed from Columbus and Cincinnati and other cities in Ohio that show us the simple way to go through this. And we'll set up that application so that tobacco retailers do have a 3 to 6 month opportunity to begin applying and getting approval to have that tobacco retail license, and then we'll be out there in the community.
Thank you, Director. Is this taken away from the daily health inspections that take place? Are these the same inspectors doing both work?
So through the chair, it'll be the local code inspectors, and we're able to do this increased work because of the tall grass going all the way to building and housing, and so there's definitely the room for the team to do this. They're already in these neighborhoods. They're already getting complaints, but not able to, properly act on them, and so the team is ready. Temporarily, we're going to assign 3 additional staff members to this team, including myself part-time, to partake in this work. And so we'll get out there, and if we need to bring in more staff because the number of tobacco retailers is 800 or 900 instead of our estimate of 400 to 600, we'll be bringing in a request to you for the next budget cycle to add staff to that team.
Good job.
Got it. Thank you. And through the chair,
Go ahead. No,
through the chair, Director, I think Shannon, you mentioned 67 applications were right now in the that people applied for or businesses applied. Was it 67?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, we're probably at close to 100 at this
To
point.
100.
Yep.
So those hundreds will have to abide if this passes by this legislation, correct?
Through the council, through the chair to the councilwoman, they will need a tobacco retail license. They will have to get one in terms of if they actually have an occupancy permit for a smoke shop, they will be grandfathered into the legislation, but they will have to abide by the annual tobacco retail license.
So,
Point of this, why are people grandfathered in? No one can explain to me.
My next question.
the count.
I'm sorry, point of
No, you're fine. In fact, that's exact was going through my mind. As soon as you said that, I was going to ask the same question. Can you answer
I can.
about the grandfathering, Mrs. Leonard?
Yeah, through the chair to the councilman or to the entire body
Yes.
here. So this came up in the former meetings last week, and I worked with our law department. So our zoning code in each graduated district allows for uses and similar uses, and it's kind of wide open, right? And so these uses are existing, and so they're considered retail uses, and so they're grandfathered. When somebody submits a building permit application, under law, we have to take them through their due process. So if they apply to be a smoke shop, we have to issue the occupancy for a smoke shop. It'd be like a cigar lounge or something, or a cigar shop, or a cigarette shop. So they're similar to those things. So even though they're not defined, smoke shop is not specifically defined until this moment. To give you an example, when we talk about the small box discount retail legislation that came through a couple years ago, we had not defined small box discount retail, but dollar stores and things of that nature fit under that higher term, right? And so we didn't, all those dollar stores were grandfathered in, but if a new one came, they would be labeled as a small box discount retail. So that's how that works.
So, but again, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
On the
Yeah,
point, Mr. Chairman.
do the chair. Oh, I'll wait. I'll ask my questions later.
Okay,
'Cause this-
because I'm hearing points from all over the place.
Okay, I'll stop.
But no,
I'll wait.
go ahead. You can finish. Councilwoman
Yeah.
Santana's allowed you to finish.
Yeah, no, again, through the chair to the team here, you're saying people can be grandfathered in. This is I'm gonna say the smoke shop industry is a new industry. And we haven't had rules a part of it. And many of them are illegally operating with no enforcement for the city of Cleveland. That's my point. Like, no, we need to figure, that's why we need to limit it. And
Let's
even
change
for
it
the
now.
ones who have gotten a use, we need to limit them, period. I feel, I don't know what is necessary. I hear what law is saying. No, we have not done any enforcement. Do the chair, I'm sorry, I'll add that to my list. Never mind, that's it.
No, that's
Councilwoman's right. They've just been allowed to just
Can I-
appear with no type of anything.
Mr. Chairman.
no accountability.
Yes.
That's correct, because they've never they have not been required to get a permit for the smoke shop. So most of them, let me clarify. First of all, the ones that are existing all across the city do not have a use permit. There's only a very small percentage of the amount that we know that are in the city, that we have an guesstimate of what's in the city, that have actually come in for a permit.
Okay.
So those ones that do not have an occupancy permit on file once this legislation passes will not be grandfathered in. So I want to be very clear
Gotcha.
that those ones that are existing without an actual occupancy permit or a use permit on file as a smoke shop will not be grandfathered in.
Got it. Thank you. Councilwoman?
And I'm sorry, just the
Chairman,
last
on
one.
that
This is on this purpose. So through the chair to the team, how many people of the, so am I confused? Do the same amount of people who have the smoke shop licensing have an occupancy permit, or are those different?
Mrs. Leonard, Director?
Through the chair, so none of the tobacco retail license legislation is what we're proposing for Finance Committee on Monday, so it doesn't exist yet. And so I do think, to your point, that a number of these smoke shops and tobacco retailers are not going to apply for a license, and that will then tell our team that they need to be shut down. And so, is that what you're asking?
Okay.
Go ahead.
You're putting, though, you just had the conversation, we have 7 licensed marijuana shops.
Yep.
Then you said there were 42 applications for smoke shops, but then it went to 67 last week, up to 100 now. What are those things? Tell me, what are those things in regards to this legislation, and are those 100 currently ones that would be grandfathered in according to this legislation?
Mrs. Leonard?
Yep, through the chair to the councilwoman, thank you. Yes, so the 7 licensed, or the state.
That's different.
Yep,
I know
that's different.
that
Okay.
that's not.
But yes, what we're talking about is the smoke shop applications that have come in since January, is probably close to 100 up to this point, have come in at the behest of hearing the council passing legislation or being told that they need to get an occupancy permit. So those 100 that have come in, roughly maybe less than 100, will be permitted. They already received their permit, so they will be able to continue to operate.
No, this is through the chair this is the point that I am objecting to. This is the point that I'm objecting to. They should not, and this is the thing, is just because we don't have a rule for it does not mean that you can actually do it. And just because you submit for something does not mean that you should have the existence. So I'm gonna ask through the chair to the table here, have we actually checked, are people actually registered? Are they paying taxes? Those type of things. Is that a part of the application process for due diligence?
Mrs. Leonard?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, that's not in zoning's purview when we are, or building and housing that I'm aware of.
And the reason why I'm saying, because through the chair to the team, the reason why I'm asking these things is because of the societal impacts that happen to a society as it relates to soccer. The public health issues that end up long-term ramifications, good, bad, or indifferent. That's just the reality. That's the health and science of this. And to say that just because you apply for something, and that's what I'm trying to get to understand. Just because you apply for a smoke shop and you didn't have any rules, what is the preference to be like, oh no, yes, you can do and operate it? I'm not understanding the logic, the philosophy on what is happening here. And this is the reason why I say we need, regardless of these numbers and stuff, we need to actually come up with a number to explicitly say no. Just like the state of Ohio has put in a moratorium on how many marijuana licenses that you can get even to begin with, right? And again, I'm going back, I'm gonna stop here, but y'all can see this right here, no. I will not vote for this legislation if we do not have any. We need to have explicit limits on the smoke shops. Even for the 100, we need to come up with determinations, period.
And if I can make a comment before we go back to Councilwoman Santana, and thank you for graciously allowing Councilwoman House Jones. No, you good. You're the same. We all thinking the same thing up here because we're all facing the issues. You mentioned those who does not have a use permit or an occupancy permit to be a smoke shop. Even though we have the 100 now of folks who are requesting a license, right? if any of those 100 do not have a use permit or an occupancy permit to be a smoke shop, even the license won't matter because their use and their occupancy, if should this happens or pass, will knock them out the box, period, right? Or it'll kind of push them to the back of the line, so to speak, right? Because it's twofold. Not only the license, but you also you must have the use and or the occupancy to actually operate. So if this happens and these people who are requesting does not have that use permit or that occupancy, it really won't matter with their application, correct?
Yeah, to the chair. So what will happen is if you do not have a use permit or an occupancy permit as a smoke shop as defined, you would not be able to operate unless you submit for a new occupancy permit. In that moment, we would map you, just like we do with some of our other legislative pieces or uses. And once we look to see if you're within 2 miles of another, if you are, we would deny you and issue a letter of nonconformance.
Okay.
Otherwise, if they're not within 2 miles, we would approve it if they meet the qualifications of not being within 500 feet of a school, a park, the things listed here. And then if all of those check out, that would be the only way that would be able to issue the permit. Otherwise, they'd get a letter of nonconformance. Under the tobacco retail license, whether you're a smoke shop or a cigarette shop, you're going to need a tobacco retail license either way.
Gotcha. And so just for the committee, that's why it was important for us to get this and add this on now, so that way we can be able to hear this quickly, so that way they can move through the process. Because as you've heard from Mrs. Leonard, Director, once it was made known that these were changes coming, they began to pile in, but we know like our departments like, they don't know our departments like we know them in terms of the timing it'll probably take to even get through part of what is needed for them to operate. So that's why all of this is, the timing is of the essence that we go through this. Mr. Leonard?
And then just
Chairman?
one other thing.
Yes.
So
Can I get a point? Okay, hold on.
We did talk to the law department about limiting the number of smoke shop licenses. So they did state that you could limit the number of smoke shop licenses through the licensing, the tobacco licensing ordinance. So, for instance, because if we amend the smoke shop ordinance for 347 for the zoning code to a certain amount in that zoning code, it's going to have to go back through planning. The other thing to note is that they did look into the emergency ordinance, and they believe that this, based on the oversaturation evidence that we have here and how this is such a public health and safety concern across the city, that this body would be able to consider this an emergency ordinance.
Got it. Okay, so there's a reason why we cannot limit it in this ordinance, but the other ordinance that's actually in the committee, that's non-zoning, that could happen there.
That he can limit the number of actual
So there's
tobacco
two pieces that are
licenses.
actually, that has to go through zoning. Then there's two other pieces or three pieces that actually just go through the normal committee process. It's in health committee.
It's 186.
It'll be in finance on Monday.
But we can limit it in finance.
So I'm assuming that was not something that came up and discussed in detail in health, was it?
Through the chair,
Director.
those questions were asked in Health Committee, and so we've gotten the answers now to be able to present to Finance Committee for recommendation
Got it.
for the full body.
Thank you. So just for those who are listening, that discussion came up during Health Committee. They've gotten their answers from Law Department, and so now as it goes to Finance, should the body deem that is something that we want to do, we can make that change at Finance Committee.
Yep.
Can you provide the
This
ordinance
one
number for that?
is
187, 2025.
Thank you. And
Mr. Chairman, can you
Count-
summarize that real quick? What was it, if you could? I missed a part of that.
So 187 is where we can make an amendment at Finance to limit the number of smoke shops. We can actually put a hard number on that. It cannot happen, and we will not make that change as it relates to 188 and 189. but that is something that can happen with the ordinance that was just given to us, that was heard in Health Committee, and that will be heard and discussed for passage at Finance Committee next Monday. Got it?
Got it. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. And Councilwoman Santana?
Good, thank you. I mean, Councilwoman House Jones and you basically answered my questions, but I want to go back to this occupancy for the 100 that have applied, registered. I know for regular businesses, as a council person, it takes forever for just regular businesses to get their occupancy. Why are we rushing these 100 vape shops to get their occupancy? Like, why can't we just hold off on them until we approve this legislation? I'm a little confused on that.
I can answer the
Because she said some will be approved.
They will. So if they came in prior to this legislation being passed, we apply the current regulations at the time of application.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you know, through the chair, director, about how many applications? I mean, there's just no way that I could take 5 more vape shops in the ward. I mean, we can't, so.
Yeah.
They're killing my ward.
Through the chair.
Mrs. Leonard?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, I can get the exact number for each ward if you would like. I'll have our GIS specialist remap the ones that have come in. I would also like to just be clear that it wasn't until January that we started, when these applications started coming in, stating to be smoke shops, that the Department of Building and Housing, when they intake the permits, was actually putting it into the Excella system. And so prior to that, they were just putting in like C-store or, retail, so there's really no way. So we're doing a lot better as we move forward in the permit overhaul process and getting our staff and working with Building and Housing and planning to make sure that when things are coming in for applications, they're being labeled correctly, which would allow us to pull that data for you all. So I will say that it may be a little skewed and heavy for January, but that's when they really started pouring in once it hit the news that we were looking at this legislation.
Yeah. Thank you. Councilwoman Santana, hold on 1 second.
Okay, I'm still trying to process that, but if you could give us a number, I would appreciate that. And then, so that's one piece, and then the current vape shops, right? They're not in compliance. So they're operating under this false pretense of, being dispensaries. We have the signage. Like, how are we going to address that? And then my second question, along with that, would be, does Building and Housing even have that capacity? We're worried about them just with citations to our residential and commercial buildings. So those are my 2 questions.
Well,
and then
I can. So through the chair, yeah, that's the beauty of this legislation of 187 is that it authorizes the health department to do these inspections, and so this is something that we do regularly with restaurants, and so we're going to be on it. And if they're not following the law, we will close them down.
Yeah, and through the chair, thank you, Director. Is that include the current vape shops, like their signage, and just once again, they're not operating on. They're operating under these false pretenses, like they shouldn't be open. And you even mentioned, Director, that they don't even have their occupancy, right? So they should be closed now. Why do we have to wait for this legislation to take place?
Good question for Building and Housing.
That's a good question.
Well, through the chair.
They give us all the
Yeah,
bad.
I guess I can't speak for the current state. I just know that with this legislation, that's why we worked together to write it the way we wrote it, so that we have the authority to close them down. It's what's been successful in a number of suburbs in Columbus and Cincinnati, and so looking forward to bringing that same enforcement to Cleveland.
Gotcha. Before we go to Councilman McCormick, Councilman Joe Jones had asked for a brief point, if you mind.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It was actually around the grandfathering in piece, and after further listening, Mr. Chairman, I kind of realized that was a moot point here. So my proposition and thought was that can we have a moratorium, and that way that would prevent anything and everything that's in place right now is on hold until we pass the existing legislation, because that protects our community. Unlike Jasmine Santana, our community don't want no smoke shops. So I speak for my people. and they don't want them. They're oversaturated in our neighborhood. So I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, that our body consider a moratorium immediately.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate that. Mr. Chairman, to the panel, the leadership team is looking at a moratorium, and we'll be discussing that with City Council and the Mayor's administration to go into effect as quickly as possible in order to allow these policies to develop and pass, and for city staff to be able to appropriately build out the programs for these policies. So, Mr. Chairman, directly responding to Councilman Jones, that is under consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate my colleagues' diligence, and you certainly, I know that this is it. This is your last year. We're going to miss you.
Man, y'all keep reminding me of that today.
You can change your mind.
No, no. That decision with me, God, and my heart is final, sir.
That's right.
So, thank you. No, Chair, this has been really helpful to me, understanding the limits that we can put on the other piece that's coming through finance, and that health will be prepared to discuss those at the Finance Committee. I look forward to that. I do agree with Councilwoman House Jones on that, so I look forward to talking about that in the other piece. But I do support the piece in front of us here today, Mr. Chairman, and we got to get a hold of these. And I understand that looking at that map, that Councilwoman Santana's ward is specifically affected by these as well. So,
Councilmember Joe Jones also.
and as was said, I'm a supporter
Mr.
of the legalization of
Thank you, Kelly.
marijuana. I want to be very clear about that. I do support it, although I would have liked to have seen reparations built into the state law. They weren't, but that is what it is. For communities that have been impacted by marijuana sales historically. That was not included in the state law, unfortunately. So I am supportive of the legalization of medical marijuana and marijuana in general. However, like anything, there needs to be a process system, regulations to ensure that what's happening today doesn't happen. So I support this legislation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilman McCormick, thank you for sharing the great news with us that, we are looking at the moratorium. And I'm sure there'll be many more discussions to follow. Thank you. Councilman Harsh, and then Councilman Joe Jones. And then we'll end with Councilwoman House Jones.
Thank you, Chairman. I know that we're moving kind of fast and furious on this, but the smoke shops are opening up fast and furious, so we're
Yes.
trying to keep up with them. So I think we've already covered this, and I'm almost positive that we have, so I just want to say it one more time through the chair. There was already laws that handle the 25% coverage of windows, but those laws are embedded in our building and housing code where they're not quite enforced. This would actually put the 25% coverage into Department of Public Health code, allowing the Department of Public Health to enforce them. No. Well, okay, then I got it wrong. Through the chair to the director.
Mrs. Leonard?
Through the chair, Shannon, Chief Zoning Administrator. So the current window signage under 350 is based on, the sign code is basically divided up between the type of sign and the structure of the sign. So when I say type of sign, I mean like a business identification sign. So that could mean things like the name of your business or things that you're selling within your business. And so the way that is, and then the type of sign is like the structure of the sign. So is it a freestanding pole sign? Is it a wall sign? Is it a window sign?
Sure.
And you look at those things, and there's schedules, if you will, in the code that tell you that you can have as much business identification sign, so that could be information about your business or the name of your business, for walls and windows across the city, generally in retail districts or industrial districts, based on a square footage, based on the amount of linear frontage you have
Got it.
of your building times 1.5 plus 25. So, but the amount of informational signs that you can have is a different type of sign, and it's a window sign, is up, it could be defined as much as the building and department, the Department of Building and Housing Commissioner, Chief Building Official deems important. And so that becomes very conflated with the inspectors and kind of going back and forth and writing the permits. And so what we're suggesting here is so that, because we know that window signs are starting to take up, they're not starting, they've been, but they take up whole windows on our retail storefronts where we're trying to keep that walkable nature
Right.
or put eyes on the street. And there's this argument about what's temporary versus what's permanent, what's informational versus what's the name of my business.
Right.
So to nip all of that in the bud, we're proposing to just say you can only cover 25% of your windows. So there is a section in the code that only allows 25% of windows. That's in our pedestrian retail overlay districts. You're not allowed to cover more than 25% of your windows. So we're just saying this for across the board on our retail storefronts
And
or generally windows.
Through the chair, who's responsible for enforcement?
The Department of Building and Housing, you can call
Building and house.
311.
So it's still going to be building and house.
Well, they are the enforcement arm of the building code and the
Yeah.
zoning code at this time.
But through the chair, this will be part of our enforcement checklist for
And we will
the smoke shops.
work together.
So public health will make this part of their visits to these locations. They will also look for window coverings. When they see a violation, you won't be able to issue a violation internally, but you'll have to refer it over to building and housing and have them issue the violation. How do we operationalize this?
You can write it.
What's it look like for the worker out there,
Yep.
shows up, says, oh, you've got 50%, that's a violation. What does that person then do?
No,
And how do we
through the
enforce it?
chair, we will be enforcing it. So
Building and housing, I'm sorry, Department of Public Health will be able to write that citation.
through the chair, yes. So
Okay.
but the specific language gives us the authority to do that as well.
Okay.
And
For the
so
tobacco retail license.
189.
Okay, in 189, okay, so, okay, because it's important because building and housing inspectors are already,
Yep.
there's not enough of them and there's too much work for them to keep up with. Like, we all know this has been a problem for decades, right? So what I'm trying to get at is that the Department of Public Health will be able to enforce this ordinance with the inspectors you have. You will not have to go back and rely on building and housing inspectors to then go in and do the enforcement for you.
Yeah, through the chair, that's our intent with this package, is that the health inspectors are out there enforcing the entire smoke shop piece.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I do not believe it's covered here through the chair to the director. The cost of enforcement, I'm sorry, tobacco licensing is premised on the cost of enforcement of these laws, correct? There's an equation here.
Through the chair, so just like with the restaurant inspections, we have a cost methodology spreadsheet of the required staff time, and so that's where we're coming up with that for 187, for the
Okay.
187 piece, yep.
And if enforcement were to cost more, we would therefore be able to, we'd be justified in raising the cost of the licensing.
Through the chair, yes. So after the next Local 100 contract goes through,
Yeah.
we'll have salary adjustments, we assume, and we'll plug those into the formula, giving us a new fee.
Okay. I would ask my colleagues to just think carefully about how much enforcement might cost, because that directly impacts the cost of the licensing itself. And I think that if the license was cheap, lots of people will apply. If it's very expensive, fewer people will apply. But the last thing I want to wrap up here, on 188, the 2 square miles, I think this... I'm sorry, a radius within 2 miles. So just so everybody knows how to think about this, they cannot be within 2 miles. That's a 2-mile diameter. That's 2 miles in each direction.
That's correct.
So that's 2 miles in all 4 directions, right? Which ostensibly means 16 square miles. The whole city of Cleveland's like 85
88.
square miles, right?
88.
88 square miles in the whole city of Cleveland. Like 6 of that's an airport, right? So there would really only be room for 5 of these shops in the entire city of Cleveland, and they would have to be perfectly spaced out from each other in order to fit. I mean, everybody let that cycle through. That is a severe limitation, even more so than capping the number that can apply. We're saying that when this is all said and done, there's going to be room for about 5 of these places in the whole city of Cleveland, which is awesome. But that's what 2-mile radius in all directions really means when we operationalize it. So it's relevant to the question about the total number that we're allowing. I thought it was 4 square miles, which would have been 21, but it's 16 square miles. So we're really talking about like a half a dozen max. But, you know, it's a circle, so there's not a square.
Yeah.
12, okay.
To 4 times pi.
4 times pi. Oh, yeah, okay, 4 times pi. Well,
That's
but
a
still,
math
but still.
equation, not for me.
But you almost have to square it, though, because the circle's, okay, whatever. It's very, very few. It's very, very few, which is all I want to say. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilman Harsh, Councilman Joe Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just following up where Harsh left off at in terms of how many smoke shops will there actually be under this existing legislation? I know I just want to make sure, get the
Director,
official,
Mrs. Leonard?
official from the administration.
Can you repeat his question? I didn't hear it. I'm
Councilman
sorry.
Jones, can you repeat your question?
How many smoke shops under this legislation will actually exist in the city of Cleveland?
I don't have an exact number for you. I'll leave it to the mathematicians. I apologize. I don't know the math for how many there would be under the legislation. I just know that the reason why we chose the 2 miles was to really decrease the saturation of these being on essentially every corner, every other corner. And we know that this distance buffer worked for the small box discount legislation.
Do we have in the actual,
88 divided by pi r squared. 2 pi.
so what is it? What's the total? Is it 8? It's not 88. Okay, so what are we talking about?
I think to clarify, the amount, what the 2 miles proposing is to decrease the saturation. How many actually end up in the city going either seeking a permit, asking for a permit, or going to need to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals? It's going to vary.
Can you find out
well-
what that number is for us? Mr. Chairman, it's a question that's relevant
I think
to
what-
the proposition of this legislation. And it's, Mr. Chairman, a situation where I would like to have I know my colleague is so great over here. I love you, Harsh. He has 7.3 here. I appreciate his mathematical maneuvering around your piece, but the lady is so distinguished and so smart. That I know that she'll be able to come back and let me know how many she'll have available, Mr. Chairman. So that's my request on that particular piece.
Well, and let me just force your response, Councilman Jones. GIS, we'll have the GIS team map all of the current requests that are in the pipeline now. But as the department indicated, there are other factors that will come into play, such as whether they have a current use permit, whether they have a current occupancy, right? Just because they're 100 in the pipeline now, it very well may not be 100 that gets through the process. They have to decide whether they are within 500 feet of a park, a church, or
Yes.
other aspects. So while it's difficult to say exactly what number will go through, because there are other factors that will have to be examined through the process to kind of get a determination. Now, if we're talking just strictly 2 miles, the radius and pi and all the other mathematical equations, that works out to be what, between 7 and possibly 12 maybe shops. You know, that's if all things are perfect, in order, and ready to go.
And it's
Mrs. Leonard?
as the crow flies. So the measurement is from the nearest parcel line to the next parcel line. But I think there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of variables. But if you want to, like we had stated before, that if you're going to cap, like you could come to a solid number about how many tobacco retail licenses for smoke shops you would like to permit. That's something that the council may do based on the public health and safety crisis that we're having from these smoke shops.
Yes, and just to add, Councilman, just so you are clear, not in the 2 zoning pieces, but the pieces that will be going to finance that were only heard in health committee. That is where, as Councilwoman House Jones discussed as well, where feel free to attend that finance meeting. And that's where, if the body so chooses, where it can put an actual number on the amount of smoke shops that will be permitted here in the city of Cleveland.
And Mr. Chairman, so it's in the regulations right now, zoning, where they have to have setting a minimum distance from schools, parks, and residential areas. You have that in there?
Mrs. Leonard?
Okay.
Through the chair to the councilman, if we put residential areas, they wouldn't be permitted anywhere in the city. And it's part of the constitutional commerce clause that we don't make such strict zoning laws.
Do we have any, when you're doing this, do we do any background checks, Mr. Chairman? Will there be any licensing and permitting in terms of the background check to know who's coming in and doing this business in our neighborhood?
Through the chair, when they apply for that tobacco retail license, they will need to have the proper licenses with the state, which it does involve some background checking. So yeah.
And Mr. Chairman, the next question I would have is health and safety regulations in this particular piece here. What could pose, Mr. Chairman, to our health director, what could pose health risk to the public that would and if you find a health risk, and let me just lay the foundation of what I'm trying to say here, Mr. Chairman, to the health director. These smoke shops, which are popping up all throughout our entire neighborhoods, are a part of the passage of having dispensaries in the state of Ohio. And so what we're seeing in our neighborhoods, especially in a lot of our gas stations too, is marijuana. I mean, it looks like marijuana, and the reason why it really, technically speaking, is marijuana, but it's been chemically modified, and then that's how they're able to get around what dispensaries offer. And, Mr. Chairman, what if we find in these vape shops?
I can talk.
Through the chair, yes.
No. You weren't paying attention to me. You were talking to someone else.
Okay.
And I need you to pay attention, Mr. Chairman, when I'm asking the question, because this is important. And I don't mean to put you on Front Street, but I know when I'm asking the question here,
Councilman
I don't have
Jones?
that much time.
Can you repeat the questions? Or
Yes,
Director can,
the
respond to
issue
you?
is these vape shops that are in our neighborhoods are acting like dispensaries. We have one that's right across the street from a church and a daycare. And when they popped up, I came straight to the law department, and that was last year. I was talking about we need to put together regulations to deal with these facilities just popping up all over the place. And I'm thankful that the administration responded. I appreciate your hard work, Mr. Chairman, to the director and to the distinguished lady of zoning. My question is, as the health director, these chemical changes in the substances that they're selling in these store shops, how do we regulate that? How do we determine that it can be a hazard to the health of those people who are taking these products? And we don't know what they're putting them in, what kind of chemicals, but you're the health director. You can, I presume, have the capacity to go in, or we'll give you the power by legislating to you, giving you the authority to go in and close these shops down, especially those shops that are selling substances that are hazardous to the health of the buyer.
Through the chair, yes, they are all selling chemicals, drugs that are hazardous to health. So absolutely, that's why we would like to regulate them. Nicotine is hazardous to the health. Kratom is hazardous to the health. All the different marijuana products are hazardous to health, and so.
But those are the ones they didn't let. See, the government has allowed for them to sell these hazardous health issues to the public because the government don't care on a state level and other levels. They're trying to make a profit. So what I'm saying to you is, you can't shut that down just because they're selling a cigarette. But you can shut it down, Mr. Chairman, if they are adding a substance that is added on to already a health problem that could be hazardous to the health. Could you not, Mr. Chairman, shut that down?
Through the chair,
I'm just trying to inquire.
Through the chair, if you were to amend 187 in finance on Monday or any future time, you could add any list of products that are the sale of which would be prohibited in the city of Cleveland. That's not currently in the legislation, but that could be added at any point in the future to say we will no longer permit selling this product in the city of Cleveland, like Kratom or any product that you choose.
Well, what are some of the products that you've seen, Mr. Chairman, to Director, when you've been in there that could be added to that list?
Through the chair, when Councilwoman Santana, Councilman Conwell, and I visited those 4 smoke shops, there were thousands of products on the wall being sold that are all hazardous to health, and so.
So you could technically speaking, go in and close them all down.
Through the chair, those products aren't illegal today, so I don't know if you're implying to do something in the city of Cleveland to make them illegal. The FDA has regulations that they occasionally will pass to regulate the sale, but under the current administration, it doesn't seem likely that they'll enforce those rules at the White House. And so the state, Governor DeWine, did propose regulation of a number of different products, but the state legislature dropped all of those provisions from their state budget bill. And so that's a decision, for the legislature in any jurisdiction.
And then, Mr. Chairman, lastly, we get an opportunity as council members to say yes or no to food trucks. These are basic food trucks that come in our neighborhood. Can we add on to this too, that they must get approval of the council person in order to come into a community or neighborhood? And if they don't get that approval, they won't be allowed to come into a neighborhood. And that's just the way it should be. And that's the kind of piece that we should put in. If we should have the flexibility, just like we have the flexibility with food trucks, and they're selling hot dogs. So if we can regulate a hot dog stand, you mean to tell me we can't regulate something that's killing our people in our neighborhood, Mr. Chairman? So I think that if we get that added on, I'd like to have that added on, that you can't put one of these in a neighborhood that the councilman don't want.
Yes. Thank you, Councilman Joe Jones. I would add.
Oh, and let me just say something. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I forgot my strong sister, Jasmine Santana. I thought she said that she was for something or wasn't against something in terms of the smoke shop. So I want to say Jasmine Santana is against it. I apologize. I did not mean to infer that she was for it, and I appreciate her leadership. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
She says she forgives you, Councilman.
Thank
And
you. I'm
thank
so
you for
glad. I'm
clarifying
humbled.
your point. I'm going to go to the team here and Councilman Conwell, and he's right. And we do not want to do that in these two ordinances because that will prolong the process. And I'm interested to hear when other two ordinances that are not in the part of DPS, but I am on finance, where we could make that requirement just as when people submit for mobile vending, mobile food licenses, the council has to can approve, deny, or hold. And I'll start with Shannon Leonard, and then down the line.
So are you talking about limiting the number?
Well, you know how we get the food service, the mobile food vending license assessments will send us an email asking do we approve them to operate in our neighborhood or deny them. And so I'm not sure where, and maybe this is of course in the law department as well, where would that type of approval take place? I know that it wouldn't take place in these two, that it will have to be in one of the other three pieces that are being heard strictly by, well, what was heard by health but will be heard by finance. So we probably have to get that answer between now and finance to determine where a placement like that should go. It wouldn't be in these two here.
Right. Would it be on the one that you were talking about, Mr. Chairman, earlier? That's
Don't know. We don't want to speculate.
Okay.
We
So
wanna make sure
who could
we-
help me find it?
Well, it's not just for you. We want to for
Right.
all of us. All
Thank
our
you,
sakes.
Mr. Chairman.
So we'll work with our policy and research team and our attorneys to work with the city law department to determine where that could happen. But in addition to whatever information that Mrs. Leonard, Director, and Councilman Conwell would like to share with us.
Yeah, so for the smoke shop specifically, if a permit comes in and it's denied, they'll have to go through the Board of Zoning Appeals to seek an exception to the zoning code, meaning they're not permitted by right, and they can seek the variance through the variance process, which is, as you know, happens fairly regularly, but they're seeking a special exception, which would allow not only their neighbors to weigh in on whether they support or don't support, but also for the council to weigh in. So if the neighborhood or you show up and say you don't support the variance, the Board of Zoning Appeals will make a decision
Mr. Chairman.
for better,
Could be for the
better or for
neighborhood.
worse.
Mr. Chairman.
It may not be for the neighborhood. You never know.
But
Mr.
what this will do is significantly make it harder for them to operate in such clusters across the city.
And that's what we want. I mean, that's what we really want right here. We want to make it so that we keep our neighborhood safe and healthy. To open up a dispensary right across from a church and less than 500 feet, 300, 200 feet away from a playground, away from a nursery, a daycare, and you heard the distinguished lady talk about, we don't want a Sodom and Gomorrah in our neighborhood. And we're tired of our neighborhoods being targeted by these people, coming in our community, oversaturating with liquor, alcohol, tobacco. It's like that's the only product you can sell. Can't you give me a grocery store? Can't you give me a nice facility? Why should our neighborhoods be targeted in such a way with products that ultimately destroy us? And we already see the health facts, and the distinguished director talked about, and we've talked at this table about that kind of work and the racism involved with it. And so I'm concerned here in my neighborhood putting quality amenities in our program, programming our neighborhood so we can have things that build our community up, not take away from our neighborhood. So, Mr. Chairman, I think that we should handle it just like we do the hot dog stands. And that's the way we should start looking at a lot of these things. And the reason being is that as elected officials, our citizens demand for us to control commerce in our communities as elected officials. When we have something that we know that is having a negative impact on our community, I'm glad that we have the zoning lady that's here at the table, the distinguished lady, I'm sorry, Shannon, I'm sorry. Director, are you director? You're the director of the department.
I'm just the chief zoning
Oh, you're the big
administrator.
chief. Okay.
I'm
So
just
to the big chief of the department, what's our concern and the problems that we have in zoning, and you know there's a myriad of issues that we have throughout the city of Cleveland. If we can control this here on the front end before it gets out of control on the back end, as so many other things have gotten out of control, and I appreciate the leadership of the chairman, and I also appreciate my colleague Kerry McCormick, as well as the distinguished Chris Harsh here, and certainly Kevin Conwell. I look forward to working with you when I come to the health committee to talk about this issue and actually putting in play the ability to be able to control it, just like we do the hot dog stands.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman.
And that's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes, it'll go to finance, and so that's where the discussion will take place. So in the meantime, we can work with policy and research staff and the council president and our vice chair of finance here to determine, the best course and how to address the recommendation to have council weigh in to approve or deny, like we do other
Like liquor
requests.
license.
Yeah. All right.
Can I ask?
Yes.
Add one more thing, just to kind of see if you guys are open to making Ordinance 188, 2025 an emergency ordinance. Given the saturation of smoke shops and the number of permit applications recently submitted for these facilities, we are comfortable, the law department is comfortable with drafting amendments stating the necessity of this being an emergency ordinance and changing it to an emergency ordinance. It would be
Okay.
up to you. It would also help with the moratorium situation.
Sure. I am fine with that. I'll ask my committee members if they have any objections to that. Sure. Mr. McCormick, Councilman McCormick?
Thank you, Chair. I have no objection to that. My question would be to the legal teams
Right.
whether that fully functions as a moratorium or if separate, good morning, or if separate legislation is required. We're throwing a big, I don't know if you're going to be able to answer that. Chairman, may I solicit that question to the Assistant Law Director?
Yes, you can.
Thank you. Chair, to the Assistant Law Director, would that, from your understanding, act as a moratorium?
Through the chair to the councilperson, that's an excellent question. I don't have that answer right now, but I can look into that for
I
you.
didn't expect to have that on your feet, so.
But I think in addition to, if we still need to, we should still.
Yeah, we'll get that final. I have no
I can give
objection
you
to.
an answer. A moratorium would stop us from approving any permit applications, whereas this, if they're not within the buffers section, we could still approve it if they meet all other code regulations. That's the difference.
The chair to, if I
If you
may,
could do
Chair,
both.
Yes, sir.
to the chief, but for those 100 that are currently in queue, it is my understanding a moratorium would stop all of them. So it would essentially direct the city to not provide any other.
Stop all processes.
I'll have to defer to the law
Yeah,
department.
I think we need legal
For
clarification.
the moratorium.
But I
because-
don't, Chair, I don't think that what the chief is noting conflicts with another piece if we want
Yeah.
to put another
Right.
piece forward.
Thank you. So I personally have never had to deal with this, to change it to emergency ordinance at the table.
Yep.
So law department, what would be, do we need to just make an amendment here?
It says that they'll draft it probably prior to finance, but if you can amend it to say that it's an emergency.
Okay, so Madam Clerk and law department, do I need to, have a motion and a second on that? I'm sure, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so I will, Councilman McCormick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move to amend Ordinance 188, 2025 within the description and all other applicable sections to change it from an ordinance to an emergency ordinance.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's motion and second.
Can you
any-
state the reason?
I'm sorry?
Can you state the reason?
The rezoning?
Chair to the
public
Assistant Law
safety
Director, is a reason required for that amendment, or?
There's no reason required.
Is there a reason required?
I don't believe so.
I think we should be okay.
It says if specific reasons are given for passage as an emergency ordinance and such reasons are not conclusory or illusory.
Is it-
Yeah, so
These
that
are
would
the
be,
saturation of smoke shops here. You can read the bottom line.
I think,
It's from the law department.
yeah, that would probably just be the legal justification behind it. I don't know that we need to read that into the amendment, though.
We'll just add it in?
I'm going to, Chair to the Assistant Law Director. For the amendment itself, I understand this is the justification for the amendment, but do we need to read this language into the amendment itself?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay.
Well, I'm asking the lawyer at the table.
That's right.
Thank you, Chair.
Our lawyer says no. All right, we have a motion and second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, ayes have it. All right, we're back to the regular agenda. Councilwoman House Jones. You got it.
Does this cover
Yes,
one
well,
of
I
these?
do appreciate the lawyers in the House. I will always be saying we are the elected legislators that actually create the laws that the lawyers then have to interpret. And I know people, we really need to, again, that's just, listen, that's what listen. And that child, listen. And that does not mean that, again, a lot of time, I'll just continue to stand on that. So through the chair to the team here, how many current gas stations and convenience stores are we do we have that have, I know it's a little bit separate, the tobacco licensing, retail licensing, that will eventually get that?
Through the chair, our estimate for the number of tobacco retailers, inclusive of gas stations and convenience stores, is 400 to 600 currently.
400 to 600. And this is not inclusive of the smoke shops?
It's inclusive of the smoke shops, but the estimate precedes the very rapid
Right.
rise in smoke shop permitting requests that
Okay.
you referenced by Ms.
400 to
Leonard.
600, y'all. Whew, okay. Okay. So through the chair to the team here, can you, as we are going through a licensing process, is there coordination with licensing and assessments?
Through the chair, yes, thank you. That's a great question. So just like with food licenses, the actual application goes to Division of Assessments and Licenses.
And through the chair to the team here, what does that mean?
So it means that they pay their check and their application goes to Division of Assessments and Licenses. We get a notification from Assessments and Licenses that they have paid for their license, and then it's on our team to go issue the license and do the inspections.
Okay, so that's what thank you for that. Through the chair to the team, okay, if license and expectation, so beyond just a collection of people's money, so we don't actually even check if it's an actual legitimate business that is actually paying taxes.
Through the chair, so we will have a checklist that includes having a up-to-date state license with the state, and so I think that would include to making sure they're up-to-date with at least the business taxes.
Okay. And then through the chair to the team here, What is the process for unlicensed shops, and who does enforcement of unlicensed shops?
Through the chair, do you mean in the future state? After-
Now,
Through the chair, so there is no license currently. That's what the legislation 187 is proposing.
so what I am saying is,
Yeah, help
get
me.
through the chair to the team here, who enforce, there are unlicensed currently marijuana shops right now. Who enforces it?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, in terms of the unlicensed, if people are selling marijuana illegally, that would be a public safety issue to be reported. If it's building, if they do not have an occupancy permit and we've received, it's a complaint-driven system, Building and Housing will send out an enforcement officer, or they should be sending out an enforcement officer to investigate, and if there is no occupancy permit on file, they will draw up violation notices.
Through the chair to the team here, based on when this goes into effect, what will be the process for unlicensed shops?
Through the chair, so if the license that you're referring to is a tobacco retail license in the future state, if a store is selling nicotine products without a tobacco retail license, then that's the health department, we would put a cease and desist on their door and work with public safety and the law department to make sure that they're no longer operating.
Through the chair to the team here, do you all have a plan in a comprehensive manner that is connected to public health, building and housing, and public safety to take a more proactive approach of looking at licensing, like systematically, we gonna focus on this area this week, we gonna focus on this area next week, we gonna focus on this area the following week? Is there a comprehensive plan that's in place right now?
Through the chair, there is for restaurants right now. And so we routinely do close down food service operators that do not have a license, that operate without a license. That's about 30 a year that we close down that don't have a license. We plan to use that same strategy and plan with the smoke shop tobacco retail licensing. The way the legislation is written today on 187 that will be heard in Finance Committee and we heard in Health Committee is the law goes into effect 180 days after passage. And so that allows us to create the application and the workflow for that. And so we've got the plan ready to go, but obviously once it's passed, that's when there will be a plan that we can present to you.
So the reason why I'm asking this is because it clearly, even today, there is a responsibility from public health, from building and housing and public safety to do that now.
Yes.
Now.
Mm-hmm.
They're not doing it now.
Nope.
So there's no plan now. And so if we're talking about 180 days, and again, the reason why I am frustrated, community members are frustrated, is because we can find ways to enforce things when we want to, but for some reason, there has been a level of, we don't have no rules, we can't do anything. Even if, I'm trying to even understand, how is it then that people end up with state charges, federal charges that are implemented, enforced from the local level? This doesn't seem like this is that difficult of a task, but for some reason it is. Even when these things are reported, nothing is happening, and to expect 6 people, which is being presented now, to be able to do this work, I'm just not understanding or seeing how this is going to work. From an enforcement perspective, hence we have, I'm really working to understand this and to see how we can begin to have aesthetically pleasing environments, because many of the people who are putting the applications in do not have to live with the realities of the implementation. And for me, that is unacceptable. It is unacceptable. even with behaviors. You cannot, when you look at many of the people who are putting forth these licenses, you look to see where they live at.
I know where they live.
They don't have to live with this stuff. And it's problematic. And I do not think we should offer grace, partnership. No, you are not a partner when we understand the long-term harmful things that happen as a result of smoking. This is not in fact, this is the reality. When you look at specifically, I think it's Ohio is, again, $5 billion in health-related illnesses as it relates to smoking. When you look at the billions of dollars you lose in productivity as a result of smoking, this is not an opinion. This is a fact. And government should be in a position to intervene, put things in a longer trajectory when things that are coming up that we know are going to have significant financial consequences. So that's just my perspective. And again, and I guess for building a house and DPS, Councilman Chair Hairston, to figure out what is happening right now with from a building and housing perspective on the systematic approach to go community to community to start leveling issues, tickets, fines for places that we know are not operating out of bounds, even if it's the state. And if it's the state that it's the state that needs to enforce it, well, why don't we call in whoever are the state enforcers to start doing some state enforcement? That is my position on this. And then I think that was the last thing. So that's my 2 cents for today.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
I agree that, there has to be a detailed approach here, or a detailed or systematic approach to, address these issues and enforcement, because you all can only do so much. You're actually taking people from their normal roles to do this work. I mean, we need the department who's responsible for this already, right, to step it up. Step it up. We got to pull those folks out of those offices and let's get them out into the neighborhoods. And I'm not saying that they're not, but clearly we have an issue here around the city, and we need to something has to change, right? We get these calls, and then we call you all, right? She knows. I'll call her about it. I got 2 issues on Euclid Avenue that I need to talk with her about now for us to figure out a solution, because again, they don't have the correct zoning nor the occupancy to operate the way they're operating, right? And they've just been allowed to just be there, and nobody has said and done anything with the complaints that we've entered. So nonetheless, we will have a further discussion with building and housing and health together. Maybe we'll do something between health and DPS together that can look at the enforcement and interaction between health and building and housing, okay? All right, I don't have any further questions on ordinance 188, and just as a reminder, there was no public comment, no one signed in for 188 or 189, so that's why we not go to the zoning portion, the public comment portion of the meeting. So with that being said, ordinance number 188-2025 as amended, as an emergency ordinance, stands approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we've already discussed the 189. I have to read into the record regarding the signage. Ordinance number 189-2025 by Councilmembers Conwell, Griffin, Santana, KZ, Mara, Gray, Harsh, House Jones, Slife, Starr, and Hairston by departmental request. Right. An ordinance to supplement the codified ordinance of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976 by enacting new section 350.121 relating to window signage coverage limitation, and to amend section 3104.02 of the codified ordinances, and as amended by ordinance number 388-2024 passed April 1st, 2024, relating to civil offenses. Is there any further discussions regarding the sign coverage? Yes, Councilman.
Chair, does this also need to be an emergency ordinance?
Does this also need to be emergency ordinance, Mrs. Leonard?
Well, what you just read, it included the other ordinances, I think.
189.
Did it include the civil fines and?
Yes, this is related to
then it
sign
would.
coverage limitation, and amend civil fines.
It's up to you whether you want to make an emergency ordinance. The civil fines has to do with the violating these laws.
Okay.
So, and then the window
Councilman McCormick.
signage is important, I think,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to amend ordinance
Yes, sir.
189-2025.
for the
Yes.
same purpose.
I'd like same purpose to our Assistant Director of Law in the description and any other sections of the ordinance, change ordinance to emergency ordinance.
All right, there's been a motion. Is there a second? There's a motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, ayes have it. All right, seeing no further discussion, ordinance number 189-2025 as amended as an emergency ordinance stands approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
All right, this ends our zoning portion of DPS. Madam Clerk, please call the roll for our regular agenda. I know.
I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Here. Here. Oh, you got it.
The man.
All right, ordinance number 246-2025, as amended by Councilman Jones, Bishop Harrison, and Griffin. By departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing directors of Parks and Recreation and Community Development to enter into a property exchange agreement with the Board of Education of the Cleveland Municipal School District for the transfer of various properties between the parties to facilitate the efficient use of real estate for public purpose, including construction of the new JFK High School Athletic Stadium and property near the new JFK High School and city-owned JFK Recreation Center, authorizing the mayor and commissioner of purchase and supplies to acquire and convey the properties, and authorizing one or more agreements between the Cleveland Municipal School District and the Director of Parks and Recreation relating to the construction and shared use of the new stadium for a term of 15 years and renewing automatically from year to year thereafter until terminated by either party. As a reminder, this has been heard and approved in Municipal Service and Properties. There was a lengthy discussion around this ordinance here, and this is not new to us. We have heard and supported property swaps many times in the past. We'll go to the commissioner and director to give us a brief overview for us to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, as you mentioned, the legislation authorizes a land swap between the city and Cleveland Municipal School District. These swaps are authorized under state law where the exchange of real estate is determined to be mutually beneficial to the parties.
Yes.
This swap involves the transfer of two land bank properties, 773 and 777 Parkwood Drive, from the city land bank to the school district for school purposes at FDR Academy, and the transfer of one additional land bank parcel at 3172 West 44th to the school district for Newcomers Academy. In exchange, the school district will transfer the former JFK High School site at 17100 Harvard Avenue to the city for redevelopment purposes, for community and economic redevelopment. That site is comprised of approximately 14 acres, and the Office of Community Development is facilitating the redevelopment of this site through the RFQ process. In addition, the city and CMSD have been collaborating on the development of the new JFK High School adjacent to the city's city-owned Frederick Douglass Recreation Center at 15401 Miles Avenue. And we've also been collaborating on the abatement and remediation of the old JFK High School, which has been demolished by CMSD. So CMSD will construct a new athletic stadium at the new JFK High School near Frederick Douglass Rec Center, and that stadium will be shared. The use of it will be shared between the city and the school district pursuant to a shared use agreement. The city will invest $2.1 million in bond funding towards the construction of the stadium, which again is being constructed by CMSD. And I'd like to take a quick moment to introduce our team. We have from CMSD, starting at the end of the table, Holly Delasanti, who is the Executive Director of Architectural Services for CMSD. We have Desiree Powell, who is the Executive Director of Athletic Services for CMSD.
We all know Desiree.
Yep. And David Riley, Counsel to CMSD. And also we have Commissioner Gisson-Tanner here to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the overview. Is there any questions from the committee? Sure. Yes, Councilman.
Thank you. I didn't have the luxury of sitting on the Municipal Services Committee for this piece. I'm just overall supportive. I guess there was a conversation, and I'll think about this is a stadium. So is the city satisfied? I'm going to ask the director, but as well as council chair, with the city access to this facility. I'm thinking Muni League. I'm thinking other. Have we come to a agreed upon decision on this? I want to make sure. Yeah, obviously the district kids are our kids are the district kids, right? They're same kids. So for non-CMSD specific programming, have we reached a satisfactory agreement? I'm going to ask the director and the chairman to respond. Director.
Through the chair to the councilman, I am going to defer this response to Ms. Powell and Commissioner Gisenthaner.
Thank you. I'm going to, but I want the city of Cleveland to respond respectfully.
Get your mic.
Through the chair to the councilman, yes, the agreement is going to be similar to what we have at Collinwood Sports Complex today.
Okay.
Where all of our kids will be able to utilize that space.
Great. So non-CMSD activity, and we're the same thing, but let me just use Muni League or another league that's not specifically a CMSD program. You feel comfortable, Commissioner, through the chair, that those kids and those programs that are run through non-specific CMSD will have access to this facility?
Through the chair to the councilman, that's correct.
Okay. Chair?
Thank you.
Council
And-
feels good?
All right.
No, I'm asking.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
great.
In the day-to-day operation, if the shared use facility is on who? Is that we run the day-to-day operation?
No, through the chair, the daily operations will be CMSD. We will piggyback off of their schedule, so when there's open time, then you have recreation program, muni programs, and such.
Okay. So when there's open time outside of the need for the actual CMSD programs, who will make the determination on the other uses of the space?
Through the chair, that would be the Division of Recreation.
You would determine the other.
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. Councilman Harsh?
Oh, I'm sorry, Chair. I have
Yes.
one more question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. And then through the chair, what is the use for Natividad Pagan? Newcomers Academy.
Through the chair, I'll defer to David Riley from the
Thank
school
you.
district.
Pressing a button.
The center. Yeah, the center. There it is.
Thank you. There is no planned usage yet. We struggle at all of our sites with ingress and egress into our sites in the morning and in the afternoon when Newcomers Academy, and I'm sorry, I still remember it as Thomas Jefferson, so I have to always...
Natividad Pagan is the new name.
Right,
Yep.
Newcomers Academy is the correct name.
Yep.
When we work on that school, we'll incorporate this additional parcel into the traffic flow.
Okay, so this is just a parcel that we own that will support the school's operations. Okay. And then we changed the name so Natividad Pagan International Newcomers Academy is the name of the school now. That was changed a couple of years back. Is that reflected in this ordinance? I know that we put a lot of excitement into that new name, so I don't know if that's reflected.
It looks like they just use parcel numbers and
Okay.
addresses.
Because I know okay.
It looks like through the executive summary also where we're transferring from, the land bank parcels, they only use addresses and parcel numbers.
Alrighty. And then, Chair, I've got an amendment to make.
Yes, sir. Can we hear from Councilman Harsh?
Oh, sure.
And then we'll come
Yep.
back to the amendment. Councilman Harsh?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to get in the way of this. I just do have questions because I wasn't here for the municipal services presentation. So we didn't really go through your presentation here. So could we just go to the fourth slide?
Yeah. We can go through.
Did we already go through this? I didn't see us go through. Can we just go to slide number 4?
This guy?
Yeah, okay, wait, I'm sorry. 5. Yeah, that one. Okay, can you tell me what's going on here? I'm a little bit confused about this. Like, I know about TJ or Newcomers Academy, and I understand that parcel. But what is that on Harvard? What is that building?
Through the chair to Councilman Harsh, that is the former JFK High School.
Okay, and what is the
rec
status of the
center.
former? What is the status of that building right now?
It's demolished. CMSD demolished the building prior to the city
Okay.
taking title.
So that's
to
an
the
old
property.
aerial. That building is gone.
Yes.
And what's the deal with the stadium there on the south side? Was that still there, or what's going on with that
believe
right now?
The stadium, I'll defer to David Riley.
Got that to work. The school district demolished the former JFK High School, and the rec center, which is just to the north of the stadium there, I think is shown. Those have been demolished. The field is still there. The grandstands, which were on top of the rec center, have been removed as well.
Okay. Is the field still used by the school? Is that where they're currently using? Because they don't currently have a field, right? Through the chair. What is JFK currently using as their field?
Ms. Powell?
Currently, we have not been using it, so we have just been diverting to the available fields that we currently have. And looking at the pictures of the track is unusable and unsafe for anyone. However, there are cars and people because there's no restriction of people going to that area to use it. So at times, you will see that there are people back there using it, but they're not from
Yeah.
CMSD.
Okay. So through the chair, where is JFK currently playing football?
We have them playing away games right now,
Uh-huh.
so whatever's on their schedule, they play away. But we will have fan buses that are able to take them to their games so that they do not feel deprived of having their fans' accessibility to the
Thank you,
field.
because that was going to be my next question through the chair. Is Senate League football currently open to the public?
Yes.
Okay, because I know that we've had problems, we've actually shut it down. There was an incident at Rhodes in my neighborhood, and they said the public's not allowed to come to the games anymore, which bummed me out because I was going to the Friday night football games, and I was turned away. And I'm just curious, the current status is that, I don't know if that was a site-specific thing or if that was a district-wide.
No, that was probably just from an incident that occurred there, so for the next function, it was told that there would be no fans for that particular game.
Okay.
But going into next year, that has not been a standard.
Okay.
We're taking it case by case.
So students can currently go to the game?
Yes.
And their families and friends can all go to the game? Okay, great. One other question. What is the cost, through the chair, and this might be for the commissioner, I don't know who, the cost to CMSD and the cost to the city jointly for this endeavor?
I can answer that
Yeah, sure.
question through the chair. The cost of the new stadium is approximately $4 million.
Okay.
So we're splitting that cost pretty much equally with the school district.
Okay.
I'll defer to Ms. Delasanti for just a second. If you can talk about, there's a change order proposed that would actually raise that cost to upgrade it, just certain elements of the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
We have a resolution going to our board next month that will ask them to approve the dollars for Phase 2, which was approved back in March. Phase 2 would include home bleachers, away bleachers, a ticket booth, an upgrade on turf, an upgrade on track, ornamental fencing, a decorative archway, a shed for equipment, and a shed for athletic equipment.
And through the chair, that brings the total price up to?
We are asking the board to vote on that, and it is $1.5 million.
In addition to the four.
1.5.
That is correct.
So it'll be 5.5
That is correct.
all day? Okay. Through the chair, is it, I remember that when the city passed levies for buildings, those dollars could only be spent on physical infrastructure, on the buildings themselves, and they were not to be used for classroom materials or teachers. Through the chair, the funds that pay for this, where do they come from, and are they distinct from the funds used for the operation of the schools? I'm sorry, the academic side of the schools?
Through the chair to Councilman Harsh, the contribution from the city is from bond funds that were sold for recreation purposes.
I'm sorry, through the chair, the CMSD side of funding for this, does that come from facilities funds, or does it come from academic funds? Operational funds, I suppose?
I believe it will all be coming through bond proceeds as well. It will not be coming from the current expense levy that was approved.
Okay. Because, I mean, it shouldn't be lost on anybody that we are trying to close a $20 million gap in CMSD right now. And it should be a shock to no one that JFK is not trending very well academically. It's actually in a very bad spot. And, you know, somebody ought to say out loud that it's interesting to spend $5.5 million on a stadium when your school has a 1.5-star rating. Now, that doesn't mean that I want to take away school athletics. These are important. This is part of the well-rounded student. Just like arts are important, just like extended minutes are important, just like having diverse programs that appeal to a wide range of people and allow everyone to find a spot in CMSD is important. Athletics are part of that, and I will not deny that. And I'm, like I said, Mr. Chair, I'm not going to object. But it should be of interest to people that we're spending $5.5 million on a stadium for a school with 1.5-star rating in a district that needs to close $20 million deficit. So let's just keep that in mind when we go out there in the rest of the world and talk about how we're dealing with schools. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you for the time. I will support this, the land transfer as brought here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just
Yes.
No,
I heard
asked
somebody.
a question. Just a point of information. He said 20 million. It's actually $140 million. It's a $140 million deficit.
Per year, right?
No, in the next 2 years, like 2 years. And it may be even worse based on this last iteration of the state budget that was just released on Wednesday. They have not done the analysis, but right now we're looking at a $140 million deficit for CMSD. That will be coming on.
Hold on. Thank you, Councilwoman House Jones. Just the comments from Councilman Harsh and just hearing the follow from Councilwoman House Jones, it is interesting. You know, I get the importance, and so that is interesting. You know, when these type of expenditures come up, and just kind of the what's behind it, right? So it's just an interesting thought, and so at some point we should maybe have a deeper discussion, and probably wouldn't be in DPS, but in Education and Workforce Committee, regarding the needs of the school district, the position that it's in, and so forth. So,
And then just a context. This is again part of the issue is that back in 2018, CMS they put out a president it was a proposal for closure merger of 20 schools back in 2018, and they only would move forward 4 of them. So now the problem is exacerbated, and we have not talked about it. And this is the thing when leaders do not act based on the information they have. Now we are facing a much severe problem that we, the leaders today in 2025, are going to have to correct and get this track on board. I mean, again, if it was a merger of 20 schools in 2018, in this context, it's going to be even more. And again, we just got to say these things out loud, and we cannot make decisions in isolation. We need to look comprehensively so that we can set up our community for the next generation. Like, we make generational decisions. We don't have the luxury to make a year decision, you know what I'm saying? Like some people when it's election terms and stuff like that, but that's just the reality that we have. And people need to have this context as we're making decisions. So.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Did you want to jump in, sir?
I just wanted to clarify, the funds the district are using are very much like your bond proceeds. They are bond proceeds, and they can only be used for permanent improvements that have a useful life greater than 5 years. So they really can't be used to pay teachers or things we might like to do if we had our choice. They're dedicated to a specific purpose.
Understood.
Let me ask a question. You know, I saw in the news, and the teachers from Newton D. Baker were down here. Their roof had been leaking for a very long time. Why didn't the school district take money from the bond proceeds to fix that school's roof? Why did it let?
FYI.
Why was it let? Why did the district let it just continue to leak and just get worse over the time? I'm thinking about Collinwood High School, right? So if you have, yes, part of the reason you don't have students there is because of the condition of the school, right? And if you have bond proceeds like the city does to do the improvements, I'm just curious why, and in particular Newton D. Baker, Why wasn't the roof? And that seems to be a full school, right?
I don't know the precise chronology as to when the last bond issue was passed, but it was November of last year. So we did a joint operating levy and a bond issue last November. Was it November of '24? Yeah, I think it was November. I apologize, just don't have that in front of me. But that's where we got the recent infusion of bond proceeds. The previous bond issue dated back to 2012, and that money was, I think, dedicated to getting matching funds from the state of Ohio in our building program. So
Gotcha.
we leveraged those bond proceeds to get more money for schools. Newton D. Baker was not one that was not part of that program.
Gotcha.
Can I? And so this is the other thing, just context. I don't know specifically on this, but what I can tell you is, from my understanding, Newton D. Baker was one of those schools in 2018 that was a part of that 20 schools that should be merged and are closed. That school was in there then, based on the conditions, and people refused to act. Hence, in 2025, when we have a school that is reined in, and again, and it's one thing, and then again, I don't know if you all have went into the conversation as far as what is the investment to build something is one thing, but then where does the money come from for maintaining it to a standard that can be maintained, that is highly utilized? Does the maintenance money come from bond money, or does maintenance money come from general operating funds?
Is there an answer to that? Do we know that?
Sure, yes, I do. Right now, the district gets approximately $1 million for maintenance funds. It goes into a fund, which is the 034 fund, and is dedicated to maintain the buildings. That generates approximately, and don't quote me on the number, about $5 million a year. It's a significant amount of money. The challenge is when you're operating approximately 100 facilities and you have $5 million, you divide the one into the other, you have about $20,000 per building. And when a roof costs $1 million, you can't get many roofs done. And the district will face a situation where many of the buildings that were new are coming up where the roofs have to get replaced or on a life cycle. And this money, the bond money that was passed last year, is going to be used primarily to maintain our facilities that are in very good shape today, making sure they are in good shape because we've invested a lot of money into them.
Thank you.
And hence, to the chair, to the team, this is what I'm talking about, of understanding from a comprehensive way the decisions that we are making to build something. And it's not saying, I just think we need to look at it comprehensively of not just building the thing. What is the money that is going to be utilized to maintain it in this current financial disaster train that we are in? Literally, that's all.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman McCormick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now that we're having a caucus on the school district, I'm happy to weigh in. Thank you for asking me.
Absolutely.
I want to put an exclamation point on my colleague House Jones' comments. I fully support this ordinance. First of all, let me just say that. It's an exciting ordinance. But over half, via the data from the district during the levy, over half of our seats are vacant in the district. If we do not right-size the physical district, I'm not talking about firing teachers, anybody, I'm talking about the physical buildings, we will have chosen collectively to fail our kids. That's how strongly I feel about this. We will have made an educated, intentional decision to fail our children if we don't do what Councilwoman House Jones is talking about. We'll fail them, and we will have knowingly chose that decision, to be clear. So when someone comes up with some politics over the next year about this process, if we don't do this, if our only focus is not kids and families and teachers, if that is not our core focus, then we will have made the intentional, thought-out, active decision to fail our children. My opinion. But born and raised in the city of Cleveland, been around for a little bit. Anyways, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a procedural amendment to this legislation.
Yes, Councilman.
After my soapbox. I move to amend ordinance number 246-2025 in section 1, in the title line 10, and in section 1, line 7, strike JFK and insert Frederick Douglass in both places. Mr. Chairman, does our Assistant Law Director have that amendment?
You have that?
To the councilperson through the chair, yes.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. You have a motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? All opposed? All right, ayes have it. Seeing no further discussion, ordinance number 246-2025 as amended stands approved. All right? Thank you all.
Thank you, thank you.
Here you go. Our last and final piece. Ordinance number 338-2025 by Council Members Harrison and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Building and Housing to enter into one or more contract with Crow LLP for professional services necessary to perform lead safe auditor services for a period of 3 years. All right, who do we have with us today?
Thank you, Council President. This is McCoy Pizzuti, Fiscal Manager for Building and Housing Department.
All right. You're good? Proceed. Yeah.
So this is ordinance 338-2025, which is as described in ordinance 747-2019, section 365.005, which is recommending Crow LLP, a national accounting and consulting technology firm with a local Cleveland office, has submitted a proposal to become the City of Cleveland's chief lead-safe auditor, which would be monitoring the efficiencies and effectiveness of its lead-safe certification process. It would be for a 3-year contract for a total of $289,000. And this would replace Case Western Reserve as our previous auditor in this request.
Thank you. Why are we replacing Case?
It's under the discretion of the Building and Housing Department to replace Case Western with Crow to provide more of a more in-depth audit to essentially provide more functions, operations, provide better procedures and policies that we as a department can go to make sure we have lead safe certification. So a more extensive audit.
So Case was unable or didn't have the capacity to provide those services?
Didn't have the capacity to provide the detail that we wanted.
Mm-hmm. Do we ask them?
Excuse me?
Did we ask if whether they could provide the detail that we wanted?
This was under the discretion of the mayor's office to move to Crow LLP. So this would provide, this would provide a triennial report that we have not received through Case Western before.
Okay, so we'll have some other discussions between now and finance. Is there any other questions from the committee?
Yeah, Chair.
Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you. I will point out that this went through a RFQ process, which is how Crow was selected. So there was a open bidding process to get here. I'm happy you're here today. This is not at all a slight on you. I'm just going to say to the administration, there should have been some staff members on our lead work here today to discuss. This was a critical piece to get our auditor in place. This contract for the auditor has been lapsed for more than, I believe, 6 months at this point, which has sort of shattered our insight into what's actually happening within the program. At the same time, a key staffer who was working on lead departed the mayor's office a number of weeks ago and there's not been a replacement sort of key point person. So Chairman, I'm just going to express some disappointment that we don't have a more extensive team to connect the dots about why this auditor position is critical. I believe they're critical. I am in full support of this legislation. Just want to make sure that this really gets done and gets across the finish line, Chairman.
Got it. Thank you. Councilman Harsh?
Just cross T's and dot I's through the chair. Does Crow LLP have anything to do with Elizabeth Crow?
No.
Great. Thought it was worth asking.
Right. To the administration, is that the case? Does Crow LLP have anything to do with Elizabeth Crow or any associates of hers?
To the Council President, to my knowledge, I'm unaware of any association with Elizabeth Crow.
Law Director?
I'm sorry, I did not quite catch that. Could you repeat that?
Question from the committee is whether Crow LLP has anything to do with Elizabeth Crow, Director here.
I don't know right now, but I can look into that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilman.
I would submit that to our staff as a question prior to finance.
Yes, thank you. Councilman McCormack, Any other questions on ordinance number 338-2025? Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 338-2025 stands approved. Committee's adjourned. Thank you all.